There's an extra chair here.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming tonight. So I'd like to call the November 15th, 2023 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 6:59 p.m. In attendance are myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Don Dowling, Jim Johnson, and Stephan Torres. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli, Township Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Ortega, and our Township Secretary Stacy Hollis. Stacy, how many members of the public do you think we have here? We have 37 members of the public here tonight, so thank you all for coming. Before we get the meeting started, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so I'm assuming you're all here to talk about the budget discussion that we were about to have. So we had a stated agenda, and let me kind of start by saying this was a small line item in our agenda to get the update from our pro about what the state has planned. To date, the state has refused to meet with the township in a public meeting. They have refused to meet with Elk Township in a public meeting. And they have not come to us in any fashion to discuss plans, what they're going to do in our township. Their kind of hands-off attitude towards the residents and township officials has been identical. So you have the same information that we do. One of the things that we can offer, though, is voice. This will be on YouTube. We're here now. And one of the things that, and so let me start by saying this. I'm going to open up and have this discussion now rather than having you sit through budget discussions and all this other stuff. So
join the meeting.
So you don't have to stay here for the whole meeting unless you want to. The other thing that I'm going to propose is that we have a town hall meeting here that also includes Elk Township. We have some state officials that would like to attend. We'll try to convince the state parks people who'd like to attend. I've already spoken with John Lawrence. Here at that town hall meeting, we'll make sure that he's in attendance to hear folks' voices. One of the things that the board will have to decide on and vote is whether or not we want to have the opportunity to people to sign petitions, either in favor or not of camping or whatever proposals the state has put up publicly, but that's something that the board has to really decide. But I think it's probably imperative that we have some form of town hall with these state representatives. We also had I had a quick conversation right before the meeting with Guy Donatelli, saying that it might also be helpful to have the county here, because I think some of the land grant is under county purview. So we will work with them as well to kind of get that voices heard and hopefully stop the steamroll that seems to be happening with the state and what they're preparing to do for the town. So with all of that said, again, I don't have a lot of details. I have the presentation here that they gave on the 6th, and I have some photos of the maps that they gave on the 6th. I can show those, but I think maybe some of you are familiar with that, and maybe I should just open it up to public comment and let folks get on the record with their voices. Sound good? All right. So one thing that I will say is we do have a full slated meetings. I'm going to try to give everybody enough time to say whatever they need to say, but if it does get long, I may institute a 3-minute rule where you can't go over 3 minutes, and we'll seemingly be rude about it and say, okay, time's up, but we do need to get on to other business as well. So with that, I open the floor to public comment. One thing is, oh, sorry, Nan, please state, I do have something official I have to say. Public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agendas. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a resident of the township, or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. All right, so with that official stuff aside, I will open. Yes, please.
So
And we have a. Could you? I don't know if it's too. You might, if you have to navigate through, just speak loudly.
No, they can't get.
Yeah, no. There's a. I'm pointing at a microphone. So on the microphone, there's a little man with a person with a talk symbol. Just hit that.
It's green, so I'm on. Okay, my name is Nan Latimer, Latimer. I'm a resident and a taxpayer in Franklin Township. And the comment that I want to make is because we have you all at a public meeting, is there going to be any discussion by the board on your opinions on the plans that you've seen, which is everything that we've seen as well? And along those same lines, would the board consider writing a letter to the secretary and the director of DCNR expressing your concerns about the plan, which I hope you have concerns about the plan? The reason I'm asking for this is that we feel that the level of opposition that we give DCNR, whether you be an elected official, elected board of supervisors, whether you be the conservation folks, whether we're residents, which we all are signing petitions, increases our chances of changing their plan. I like the fact that you guys are going to work with Elk. I think they're motivated to work as well, because we don't want the campground here and they don't want the campground there. And so we should work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan. So just, I'll answer it for my own sake. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about what my feelings are regarding the plan. I'm sure any one other supervisor would be happy to discuss their opinions. Regarding a letter, I guess we'd have to talk about that, because it depends on whether or not we're all aligned. I don't know if we're all aligned. To be honest, the thing about township politics is we're not allowed to gather together and have conversations outside of a public meeting. So I'm actually not sure where any of them stand on any of these. So this is the first time we're talking about it with you. So yes, to that end, I'm happy to express our opinions, but let's go through the public comment. Yeah.
Yes, my name is John Bradley. I'm a resident. I have one question. And at the last meeting we were at with DCNR, we were informed that there was a stakeholders meeting as part of the planning process. And they told us that Franklin Township was represented at the stakeholders meeting.
Who was there?
Was anybody at Franklin Township involved at the stakeholders meeting?
Who was at the stakeholders meeting?
From our pro committee, Paul Overton.
Paul Overton.
And
Okay.
from our folks, I was there as well as Paul Augustin.
Okay.
No, hold on. This is Paul. I was not at the stakeholders meeting. I was at the November 6th meeting.
So 2 different meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
We can. Yes.
Okay, so I apologize for the rather bizarre look of my face, but I'm in upstate New York and I had to do this by phone because I forgot my computer. So to speak to the stakeholders meetings, the stakeholders meetings that I'm aware of were oriented towards, in my case, discussing historic resources in the park, and what might be done in terms of educational opportunities with historic resources. I know that there was a meeting that involved folks such as the Elk Creeks Watershed Association, where they participated in a stakeholders meeting that discussed such things as reforestation and converting former farm fields to meadows. I believe there may have been a stakeholders meeting that involved the Lenape, the official Lenape representatives, which would probably have been from actually Oklahoma, if they were involved. So the stakeholders meetings also were, for lack of a better term, I'll call sandbox. We weren't actually told who the other stakeholders meetings involved. We were there to basically help park officials understand what issues would be involved, for example, in my case with historic resources and what might be, what we thought might be useful to have done with respect to those resources. So, such issues as camping or the layout and design of the park never came up in our meetings.
So it completely contradicts what I heard from a state representative at the last meeting.
Right.
That Franklin Township residents were represented. Okay.
So yeah, and what it sounds like was a very specific, when you talk about when I hear stakeholder meeting, I think we're going to show you all the plans and.
Well, it was prior to the plans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
yeah.
when we should have been involved.
Yeah. So this was, clearly focused on historical resources.
Right.
Nan, was that your experience as well?
Yes, there was some conversation about park in general. There were folks there that were pro box hunting that brought that up. So there were little things, little nuances that came in, but basically our focus was historical resources. I believe there were other stakeholder meetings too. I think that Paul was saying that. I know that a friend of mine's son was in one, and he's in a bicycle, mountain bike. But I don't know who else was there. And then elected officials like John Lawrence.
No, he wasn't.
He was not.
No.
It would be nice to know who was there.
I asked that question.
Like names, because if they, they should have invited us. There should have been an invitation to the board.
I asked for a list of stakeholders and I was denied.
You were denied.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Just like the results of the survey, I was denied the results.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been hush hush.
Do you know, would you be willing to share what official you were talking to?
I think her first name is Cindy.
From the NCR?
Yes. I think she's a cabinet member. Right.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comment?
Yeah, I went to the New London meeting. My name is Michael Chaga. I own property in this town too.
We can't hear him.
Wait, you have to
Yeah.
don't speak. Just come to the mic, please. Come to the mic because they can't hear you. Yeah, they can't hear you.
And I went to the meeting.
No, just wait.
All right, I went to the meeting and my name is Michael Chaga, Chaga. I live on 841. The park surrounds me by two sides. And we didn't get no information about nothing on this. They turned everybody loose and wild. No, there's no people to control anything. All the DCNR people are done by Thanksgiving. They're done. And hunting season opens and there ain't nobody there. And we deal with this. We've been dealing with it for 2 years. And New London, what did they say in that about New London?
Right.
They were, I don't know. I'm aggravated, very aggravated. Now, this was supposed to be a preserve, not a state park.
Exactly.
You don't have camping in Fair Hill, White Clay, Ridley State Park, all
Fair
these
Hill.
places.
Fair Hill is 5 times bigger than this park. They don't have any of that
That's,
stuff.
yeah, they know.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I think you people should have been involved a long time ago.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah,
all the other townships should have been. We even tried to buy the property between us. They wouldn't sell it to us. So it wouldn't be parked. So I have said
But-
my say.
there's a lot of things wrong with what they are designed. For one thing, the people that designed it, I don't know where they got them from. Because they're not the type of people that should have been planning anything. I don't know if any of you were at that other meeting where they showed the new park office. It's shaped like this with metal stuff all over it. Do you want your tax dollars paying for that? It's ridiculous. It's hideous. And then they have paths everywhere. They want paths all through the whole mess. The deer will be chased around constantly. And overnight camping, campgrounds? You gotta be kidding me. You know how one match could set a fire and all that when it's dry out? Our houses are there. We're 15 feet from the edge of where this starts. I don't want people camping in my backyard. I'm sorry. And I don't think any of you do either.
No.
And I am just furious.
We went to this meeting and we got a history lesson about the area.
Yeah.
We live in. It was 2 reading and most of it was on the history lesson, right?
10 minutes, they showed us what they were gonna do. And there was supposed to be a very intelligent person that was supposed to design the park. What happened to him? Where did he go? Did they buy him off? I just get very upset.
That's okay.
I've been living here for 40 years in the area. I love it. And I'm 80 years old. I don't have much more time, but I would like to enjoy it the way it has been for the past 40 years.
270 years.
Uh,
270 years.
Well,
And the way the state said it would be.
exactly.
I'm sorry. This is fine, but I'm sure the board would appreciate, instead of British Parliament, I'm sure they would appreciate, as this constituent is coming up to the microphone, giving your comments, the board's gonna listen, and then just cycle through, because
right.
it's difficult to absorb these comments in that fashion. So I apologize for interrupting you. So the next one, maybe you speak, you come up.
All right.
This will also be on YouTube, so it can get you for the mic. They need your name. Keep a record of it. This is good. So just take your time.
Your name. What's your name?
So we can.
Just say your name for the record. Your name.
Oh, my name.
Yeah.
My name is Doris Chaga. And I live on 841.
So just to whoever wants to speak next, just come to the podium. It's just, because that way we can get you on the record.
Hi, my name is Nancy Friggle, Friggle. I live right around the corner in Hunter's Crossing. It's my first time ever coming to one of these, and I'm embarrassed to say that. I've lived here 24 years, but everybody's been taking such a great job of our area that I never felt like I had to get involved in anything. I'm a little bit late to the game on this, so I apologize for that. But I just don't understand how this could even be a discussion if what we were told was this was a preserve. So if I'm behind and there's someplace I can read, like, how did we even get here? Can somebody even, how did we get here when it was sold as a preserve?
We're trying to unravel that.
Okay, so.
I should say, we're trying to unravel that ourselves. Yeah.
So we don't have, there's no attorney, there's nobody like.
Well, we.
Represented here.
Yeah, not representing for them. Yeah.
We'll change it to a park.
Yeah, but how does he, okay, so that's why.
That's
so
what it is, right?
I'm not behind. We're
You're
all
not
on the
behind
same-
this. We all got kind of blindsided by the change in designation of the area.
So is there a person that's gonna be in charge, like telling us these are the 18 steps we have to take? Is that you guys? Is that gonna be one of us? Like, how do we find out?
Yeah, so there is a couple of things that we can do. And one of the comments that I made at the beginning
Sorry,
of
there's
the
a couple
meeting,
minutes
no, it's totally fine. Is that we're gonna organize a town hall meeting with Elk Township and have certainly local representatives. So the board will be, our board will be there. I'm assuming the Elk Township will also be there. We've invited John Lawrence, and we'll invite Senator Kane and our local Chester County officials to hear their voices. And then we will also invite the state park officials. However, the state park officials have thus far denied coming to a public meeting in this forum to answer questions. So they've Elk Township reached out to them, asked, and Franklin Township, we've reached out and asked them to come talk to us, talk to the residents about the planning process and the plans. And they have no intention of doing that. What they want to do is meet with board members privately for a discussion. I am not comfortable doing that, and the board is not allowed to have those kinds of conversations in private. There's something called the Sunshine Act. And so it's very difficult for us to get together as a board when it's not in a public meeting. So we're kind of at so we're going to have this town hall. We're going to try and get as many representatives here as we can. So that's how we're going to try to get and document our voices. And hopefully that'll be enough pressure for the state the state park service to start showing up and maybe answering some of our questions.
Is there any way like we can legally start sending stuff to Governor Wolf, asking for he's not our governor anymore, but like, is there anything we can do to thanks to Shapiro to start?
That's what we have.
Yeah, so on our website, and thank you, Jim.
There's a list of contacts.
We sent out a notice last night because we knew there would be a lot of interest here. We wanted to make sure that on the website, and I think it's been posted on Facebook as well, is a list of state park representatives and our local representative, Senator Kane, and Representative John Lawrence, their phone numbers, email addresses. So I would encourage you to call them as well to get their input. So you're here with us, talking to us, you're getting that job done. And then the next step is to bring it up the ladder to the state level.
Thank you.
Thank you. On Lawrence's website, has a really good background.
Oh, one of the what we just heard here is a good resource would be John Lawrence's website. He's pretty active on this topic. He's done a nice job getting information out to the public. I think he's also written some legislation to better define what a park and preserve is. So if the House adopts it, that might give us a little relief as well. Okay.
Hi, I'm Michelle Noland, Nowland. I'm a township resident. I live right where one of those dots is on the map, on the corner of Mount Olivet Road. And I've lived here for about 25 years. My husband's family has owned that house since I think about 1904. All that land that they're talking about now belonged to Dr. Worth, who was my husband's great-great-grandfather. So we know it went from Worth to DuPont to Strawbridge. We actually approached George Strawbridge multiple times trying to buy the land between Brothers Riding and Mount Olivet Road. It's about 88 acres. We were trying to get it from the creek over. And that would have included everything that backs up to Brothers Riding. We were told multiple times that he would not subdivide because he wanted the land preserved. He didn't want us to build any structures on it. He didn't even want us, wouldn't even give us back the barn, nothing. So I find it very disheartening to see that map showing campgrounds with permanent structures. Am I 100% against learning opportunities, maybe an amphitheater that's used to have educational things? No. Am I against maybe some tent camping? No. But when you start talking about putting in permanent structures, permanent utilities, large buildings, taking up that space, crammed in between the Spring Lawn Trail and the Amish farm, well, that's a whole different ball of wax. Now we're all getting really frustrated. So we already have issues, and I know that there are some people from Brothers Riding who have issues with people using their yards like it's state park land. Even with gates, even with barriers. And so it's frustrating everyone. We're all upset about this. Apparently the survey came out and there were 750 respondents. That I just got it right before I walked in here. There were 700 and maybe 59 respondents. About 500 of them said, we'd like camping. It said, if there were camping allowed, what would you like? It didn't say, should we add camping? So they worded it very precisely. Thanks to Antia, who is sitting back there, we have close to 1,000 signatures on an online petition already. We're trying to get as many people locally to sign a physical petition that Representative Lawrence has put on his letterhead. So there's already a lot of movement. We're trying to act quickly because I was told by some of the state park people who were doing the meadows that, oh, we're still in planning phases. Okay, I can give you the name of people who told me I would be on the stakeholders committee and I would be contacted and be on a list, and along with there was someone from Brothers Riding, there was someone from a little on the other side of us, behind us, and every time we talk to someone, no one's heard a word. So we're all at this point. I talked to one of the Elk Township supervisors. He didn't know anything about the meeting last week. He doesn't know anything about it. And it's right down the road from where he grew up. So the lack of transparency is unsettling. It's concerning. And we feel like they're trying to slip us one. So we have to take every step we can. So that's why we're all here. I'm sure many of us are all on the same page, but I think that, but I know there are a few people who are like, who cares? Camping, great, whatever. But it's also, I don't think they're taking into account the light pollution, the noise pollution, the excess traffic it's going to bring, the excess lack of security that some of us feel who back right up to it. We have trails next to us, people's dogs in your pond and people picking your vegetables, apparently. So it's starting to concern everyone. And now everyone's just angry. And I'm not here to yell at you. It's not your fault, but we'd like you to do whatever you can to help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next?
I have been to a stakeholder. I was also told that I would be put on the stakeholders list and repeatedly called, emailed, and was never invited to it.
I just, someone said they were at a stakeholder.
I was invited to a stakeholder meeting.
Oh, okay. So
And
maybe
I
you can
attended.
speak now. Maybe you can speak next, right? I just want to know. You after the stuff.
Okay.
Do you want her to go before?
No, you go.
Are you sure?
Sure, you go for it.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Bob McKeever, McKeever. I actually live right up the hill from Michelle and in Brothers Riding. And I am a taxpayer. I surely am a taxpayer. Okay. And setting that aside, I'm probably going to kind of ramble here a little bit, but my main concern is air quality. Okay, because we're talking about 100 fire pits, perhaps. The campsites. There's 80 to 100 is numbers that have been kicked out there. I did the math. If they're 2.5 foot, okay, and there's 100 of them, that's equivalent to about 500 square feet of a fire pit. Okay, running, from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight. Okay, so that's going to happen night after night. Okay, and I know if I was a private company and I went to the state and said, can I open a fire pit there, and only run it at night when the temperature inversions are there and it pushes the smoke down, I don't think I get approval. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. We're, up against the DCNR who thinks it's just great. Okay, now 1.2 is that map they have there is 10 years in the future. Okay, they're talking about reforesting that field. Okay, and right now, that field is nothing but, it literally is an open field. Okay, there's nothing there. So that's, 10 years, 15 years in the future after they've planted trees around there. Okay, so right now, if you have 20 fire pits, it drains, it's about 400 foot on Strickersville side, and it's about 350 on the other. And then it drops precipitously right down to the Elk Creek. Okay, it's about 100-foot difference. So what's going to happen is that when we get temperature inversions, it's too cold up there, or rather it's too the hot air holds the cold air down. And then that runs over the side of the hill. It's going to fill up the Elk Creek.
Air line, right? If you've given the air chuck before, they're very easy to connect. And when you get a little bit of pressure in those airlines, it's pretty easy to overcome that air pressure in there, right? You can always connect those couplers together and compress that air a little bit more. Fluids, though, are
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually practicing to be a ventriloquist. So thank you. Okay. He sounded really smart. Okay. But setting that aside for the moment, literally the smoke will have opportunities to just come down into the valley. Okay. And poor Michelle is right in the valley. Okay. And there's a half dozen houses down there. Okay. And, likewise, the folks who live up on Strickersville, up on the upper part, they're going to be subject to the same issues. Okay. Now, where that smoke goes afterwards, I have no idea. I mean, it'll probably come up the hill to my house. It'll probably keep going, east. So even though we may not have the campground in our area, okay, we're going to have the benefit. We're going to have all the smoke. We're going to have all the pollution. And somehow we have to make sure the state is held accountable for that they don't go forward with this until they've looked at these issues and satisfied us that there is no issue. So that's all I got. Thank you.
My name is Mary Everhart, and I live in the Cherry Hill area of Elkton on the west side of Fair Hill. I was invited to the stakeholders meeting and I went, but I was invited to represent the Delaware Equine Council because I've been a lifetime member of the Equine Council, and I'm on their Trails Committee. And the people who were at the stakeholder meeting that I attended were all end users, fly fishermen, mountain bikers, an organization called Trail Dogs that do cross-country running and so forth. They had at that meeting the Wills, Mr. and Mrs. Wills, I don't know what their first names are. They are the Pennsylvania State Horse Council Trails Committee people. So they came in on phone. And the whole focus of our meeting, there were representatives from DCNR there, but the meeting was run by the architects that are designing this park. And they asked us for a wish list of what we wanted. We broke into small groups and we worked with big sheets of paper writing down. And the whole consensus at this stakeholder meeting was less is more, couple of porta potties, open the gate, okay, keep it the way that it is. That was everyone at this meeting feeling that way. And when I heard about the meeting at Lincoln University, I didn't attend because I thought I got an invitation to that meeting too, by the way, from DCNR. I can, if you'd like me to, go back through my emails and document when I got these invitations and maybe give you a written explanation, because if I lived here, I think I'd hire a law firm to get disclosure of what the public felt in those stakeholder meetings. In the state of Delaware, where I came from before here, the minutes of those meetings have to be put up on the website. Okay, I mean, from what I'm hearing about you all, nobody's telling you anything, and they're not sharing what the survey results were. So it seems awfully fishy to me that what's going on. I've also been very, very involved when some of the land at the First State National Historical Park in Delaware went and they were going to sell some of the land for high density housing units. And they got a lawyer and they got some environmental people to say that there are species you can't put 450 housing units on this 237 acres. It just isn't environmentally friendly. And I mean, I went around and knocked on doors and got people to sign petitions. And with great concerted effort, it did get stopped. But takes a lot to, you know, fight City Hall.
Mary, do you know the date of I'm sorry, the date of the one you attended?
It was summertime. I know that I was wearing summer clothes. I mean, I don't know whether it was July or August. I will, was somebody else there?
No, they told us that in the meeting.
Okay. I mean, I can get you some of my documentation. It'll all be on my computer. The invitation that I first received to attend the meeting that night. It was a weeknight over at the end of South Bank Road that
For us, it would be nice. We don't know how many stakeholder meetings they've held. And it would be nice to have a timeline of stakeholder meetings and then the survey, and then the survey the results just came out apparently today.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
it'd be nice for
I'll
us to have
certainly get you what's available off
That
of
would-
my
that'd be great.
computer. I can do some searches and figure out, you know, when I was invited.
Mayor, do you get a sense that these stakeholder meetings are targeted to people that would agree with the plan? And if they knew that you were against it, you may not be invited?
I didn't have that sense, but I had the sense that they cared what we wanted and what we thought about. And then when I heard what it is they're planning to do, I thought, boy, this is really a railroad snow job, you know? I mean, because no one at the meeting wanted to see buildings and pavilions. And we talked about maybe primitive camping, you know, carry in your own water. I mean, I have done that. I have, just as a personal note, trailered to all 48 states with a horse of my own and ridden in every state in the United States. Haven't been to Alaska or Hawaii because I can't afford that. Yeah, I can't. Well, I could drive to Alaska if I were willing to go, you know, all that way. But, you know, I mean, a friend of mine jokes that I should go buy a horse in Alaska, ride it and then sell it, go buy a horse in Hawaii and, you know, sell it when I'm done riding there, just so that I get all 50 states. But that's just the personal shtick of mine. So, but if, you know, if I can help you, I have signed some petitions. I signed the change.org. I'm
more interested to know what the group has put together, not so much the pushback, but how they presented it and who they talked to. That's because that will give us a sense of, well, how is this like you said, a snow job? Are they just talking who they want to talk to so they get the answer they want, or have they really gone broad? And that's what we're trying to figure out.
I believe that they went broad and invited probably historical people who have some interest in like the old buildings and the ruins and the history of the place. But I just think that they seem to have an agenda that they want to promote, and they're not opening the book to show you what the surveys said.
So one of the things that I just put up on the screen, this came from the November 6th, meeting. And one of the things that concerns me is if you look at their stakeholder input, they had the public survey, which we all participated in.
No, none of us did.
Stakeholder interviews held in July 2023.
Right.
So this is what we were talking about. They were asking about historical impact and what do you like to see? And that's where it ends as far as public input. The public meeting on the 6th didn't sound like there was much opportunity for public input.
None.
No one, right. which is in line with what they're telling us. And yeah, and then now the next public meeting is going to be their final presentation. So when we talk about what our opinions are, first and foremost, they should be talking to the residents that they're going to be impacting, right? And it seems like they're more interested in the people they're going to attract rather than the people who live here. And I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi. My name's Stacy Blyskal, Blyskal. We live on Strickersville Road. We have the 11-acre farm directly across from what is the parking lot on Strickersville. We've had multiple problems already with people camping overnight there. We've had people doing donuts in the parking lot night after night after night. We've had people flying drones in from the park over our property and looking into our windows. We've also had multiple overnight people hanging out, and we know what kids do when they hang out late at night. It's usually not good. Fireworks. Oh, also some folks do fireworks from. But our biggest concern was the night we saw folks spending the night in a camper. We called the state police. State police came out, talked to us and said, we're not going to really ask him to leave because he told us it doesn't say anywhere where he can't be here. So already there is zero maintaining of the area. They put a god-awful looking porta potty in that parking lot that I now have to look at every time I look out my window. We've asked them repeatedly, can they move it to the trees? Can they put something around it? Nothing. He told me he can't move it because of ADA access. Okay, I get that. Then put something attractive around it. But they say they have to have it now because they're a state park. So they have to have a bathroom. And again, our biggest concern is the little response that we're getting on all the things that are happening now. Where are we going from here if we're getting this big? And also the maintenance of our roads. All these people driving on our roads. Who's going to pay for the maintenance on the road? We are. Okay. And we're not even being asked anything about this. No one was allowed to say a word at the meeting on the 6th. We were there. My husband spent an hour, I think, afterwards talking to Representative Lawrence. And he was great. There's no question, but he's one person and we got to band together. But the safety concerns are already a huge issue. Why aren't they putting a gate on there? So they can't get in. Dusk to dawn is when they're supposed to be open. They say they don't have anybody to open and close the gate.
They got money to hire the firm to do the study.
Right.
Right. And what happened to all of this movie?
Right.
Good evening, I'm Bo Alexander. I live in Highland Township, which is up the other side of Cochranville. I've been participating in various equine activities in this land for the last 25 years or so, and would certainly like to see it stay the way it is. But I do have a question for you all. Apparently, most of this construction is going to go in your neighboring township, but if they raise enough hell and it moves over here, I was wondering, does the township have control through their planning commission and the board over the type of construction, what gets done, whether their ordinances that apply to control what they do?
So I think the short answer is going to be we'll have the same amount of control as Elk does. And so we would have to put up simply the same amount of stink. One of the nice things about Franklin Township versus Elk is that we have a lot of people here compared to Elk. And so I think if we combine forces, which this board is proposing, is getting everyone together.
The question is, do you have control over what they build?
We do not have control.
So I maybe help everybody answer that question. Good evening. So I'm an attorney.
Good.
All right.
We're gonna need your services, I think.
Yeah. So in order for me to answer that with any certainty, I'd have to know exactly what they were doing. Right. I'd have to know what they planned in that zoning district, which I think is AR. So I took a look at the declaration of 19, it was 19, I want to say 1990, I forget the exact date, when the Commonwealth acquired those properties. If I first checked that to see whether there was some prohibition in the declaration that we could use to guide us in our response to the Commonwealth's plans, as amorphous as they are. Didn't really find anything that was particularly helpful in the first review. I then took a look at whether and to what extent a second-class township can impose its land development and zoning ordinances on the king, the Commonwealth. And there is a tension between their power to do things and a local township's power to do it. I think there's a path forward for that. But unless I know more about what they're doing, it will be difficult for me to advise your board on what its options are. You know, the default, I think, may very well be, you know, the power isn't given away, it's taken, right? So I will focus my views consistent with my board's direction. I will also say that this morning I went on the Commonwealth's Big Elk Creek State Park website, and I actually pulled up that presentation that they gave. I can't get it tonight. So I don't know whether it's just I'm in a different location. I live in Northern Chester County, or whether all of a sudden it's been taken down. But we're going to look at that. I have been charged by the operations manager to have an answer that's not gray. So I'm going to do this. It's an excellent question. There's a case out there called, it was the Department of General Services versus Ogons, where the Commonwealth took the position that you can't regulate me. And that case said, well, in certain circumstances you can. So but because I don't really know, there's one page, I think it's page 53 of their plan that lays out, you know, spur 1, spur 2, spur 3, and then there's a common area and blah, 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 blah. But that doesn't tell me anything. I don't know how much impervious surface there is. I know from our review of the materials, the yurts, or not the yurts, but the cottages are 30 by 30. I know the yurts are identified with a different dimension. So we need to look at all of that. And perhaps through a right to know request, we can get some of that information. But it's still very new, and that's being plumbed as we speak. So,
well, I would certainly encourage you to work with your neighboring township and try and keep this at an absolute minimum. It's just disgraceful what they're doing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Davlis. I actually live in the farm that connects Peacedale Preserve to this park. And I just talked to John Lawrence today. I've been working with him for the past year on this. And he did say in reference to what you were talking about, that there is a deed restriction on septic, and it's in there. And he said that Elk Township and Franklin Township could say, no, you cannot put these up because we have no allowed septic in that entire area. His concern is that if they sue us because we're trying to enforce that deed restriction, they have unlimited resources and we don't. And we don't want to bankrupt the township.
So if I could, Representative Lawrence at least provided to the township, which was provided to me, a link which had a number of different and very interesting resources for folks who wanted to read it. One of them was a declaration, covenants and easements, which contains certain restrictions on the property. That may be the document referring to.
Might be.
And suggests that perhaps it's the county that has the authority to enforce those. So again, very early, don't know who's going to be taking the reins, but all of those materials can be accessed through that link.
Yes, and I would encourage everybody to go on Representative Lawrence's webpage because it has all the history of the times that the DCNR actually pledged to keep this a preserve. They have, the Philadelphia Inquirer actually has them on record saying they were going to keep this as a preserve. So there has been a total lack of transparency. I also want to make a point that at this meeting on Monday, they gave the speech about how their mission was to preserve and protect and restore those words, this property. that there were 15 endangered species of plants and animals on this property. And the very next statement they said was, this is how we're going to develop it, their words, and talked about 82 campgrounds with septic, with water hookups, amphitheaters, RVs, roads, parking lots, everything. So I talked to Cindy Adams-Dunn afterwards about that, and I brought that up about the endangered species. Why are we trying to develop a piece of land that has 15 endangered species? Your words. And she told me that the area they're putting the campground on doesn't have any of those endangered species. As if the short-eared owl will not fly onto that area, or the fritillary butterfly will not go to that area. I was shocked that she had the nerve to say that to me. She kept going on about how there's great demand for camping. And I will tell you that survey was written, she's been planning this for years, and I think we all know that. When this property came up, they did a handshake deal with George Strawbridge that this would be a preserve, and then immediately Wolf made it a park because she had a plan ahead of time. And so they very quickly got the survey out just to check a box. They did not advertise it. I let everyone I knew know about the survey, but if you read the survey, there was no choice for no campground. It was, what type of campground do you want? So I think we really need to push, John Lawrence is on our side. He really wants to do a lot. He was talking about maybe even taking a rally up to Harrisburg. So we have enough people to do that, but we do need support from the townships. And I really hope that Elk Township and Franklin Township can get together and talk and work together, because I think that's what we need.
Does anybody know George Strawbridge? Well,
Yeah.
okay,
JR
that's
talked to him.
because if this was not his intention, exactly. I mean, he's I would think because of his bank account, he's got more influence on this type of stuff than we might.
He's advanced age, and I don't know that he wants to get involved, but the people that I know that have talked to him said that. Right.
I'm also associated with an organization called SAVE, Safety Agriculture, Villages and Environment, which is instrumental in keeping Route 41 from being Floridian Highway and some other related activities in the 41 corridor. And we have had close ties over the years with George Strawbridge. Our organization can contact him if you would.
I think that'll be
I said, the lady that just spoke, I think, hit the nail. Sorry, John Griffith, resident of Franklin Township. She hit the nail on the head. The fact, as we sat at the meeting the other night and they were talking about preserving and conserving, made me almost want to throw up, because they're going to build and destroy. And this is high density. We have not seen anything like this. We are so fortunate to have this area that we've enjoyed, and now to see it turn into like a Walmart is disgusting. That high density I saw today, it was something like 84 sites. I looked on the internet and I saw that, if I saw it right, it was 124 state parks. There's 7,000 campsites with those 124 state parks. I know a little bit about Bald Eagle. My grandfather used to have a cabin up there. Bald Eagle State Park is just south or east of Penn State. I thought it was bigger, but it's 5,900 acres, I believe. And they have 92 campsites. 5,900. We have 1,700, and we're going to go for like 84. And that is, I don't even understand the one terminology they have where, like, everybody gather on these 4 sites or something, how many RVs they can, how many RVs they could fit in there. I don't know. But it brings the question, as one of the gentlemen said, about the campfires, the smoke, the campfires. It brings the question, sewage, sewer, whatever with that. It brings the question, wells or what it might do to surrounding neighbors' wells if they start to try to supply 84 sites. And this is something we haven't seen before. It's brand new. I have a friend that's a lawyer. He is a township supervisor, has been, and he's also been a county councilman. They've done different things coming into his township. And he said the township had incredible power when it came to the very end. He said, I said, isn't the state of Pennsylvania more powerful than? He said, no, because they have to go through our rules, our ordinances. It has to be something that sits with us. We're here. When they first said the other night that they had everybody in the state got the survey, and there, what does Pittsburgh care about our area? That would kind of really, everything's been a sham. It's been under the carpet. It's been fly by night. It worried me when they said the next meeting's sort of a conclusion, not a talk. That was a public meeting, and the public didn't get to talk. And so you guys are very important. Elk Township's very important. You get together and you find stuff, because Mr. Strawbridge, when he conveyed it, the only thing I ever heard, and he fox hunted here for years and years, he knows every bit about it, is that it was a preserve. And so somebody told me, like, in the deeds, look at, and the fellow there, look in the deeds, see what was conveyed in the deeds. I spoke to John Hollis after the meeting in the lobby, and he said, oh, it was just a handshake. And that, you know, and he wanted to say anything to get me gone. But I think there's avenues to pursue. And I think our township and Elk Township getting together can be an incredibly good force. Thank you very much.
Just a quick word.
My name is Gary George, Garry George. I'm an Elk Township resident. Are there any other Elk Township residents here tonight?
Over here.
And thank you. And I was hoping to be able to have a word. I don't have a lot to say about it other than thanks to Carmen. I just found out 2 days ago because she brought me the petition. I walk down on Mount Olivet Trail regularly, find it to be a great place. Have been walking there off and on since 1967 when my uncle Albert Jezik bought the house across Strickersville Road. It is it's unprecedented. I think we all know that in this area. It's an unprecedented piece of just pure, you know, wooded, it's obviously some agriculture, and I'm not going to go off on. I just want to say thank you to everybody here, and please come to our board meetings at our township building. It's the first Monday every month in our township building right there at the corner of 841 and 472, rather. And Jeff, thank you very much.
Wait, can I ask you a question? So I'm assuming your board is just as upset.
I'll be honest with you, Ms. D, is it Dia?
Mrs. D, that's good.
I'm pretty sure they don't know anything about it because Al Jezik Jr. is my cousin, never mentioned anything before he went on his annual elk hunting trip last week. And there's a young lady by the name, did he? Gotcha. And Shelley, I mean, I've known Shelley for years. We have our, one of our Republican, you know, personnel, I mean, whatever it is, representative for our township, Donna Ellingson, she didn't say word one to me on election day. She would have put it in my ear and dropped it. And I'm sure, like has been said here before, they're trying to keep it on the down low and jam it through. And that is un-American.
That's right.
It's absolutely un-American.
I know Donna, if she knew about it,
She's going to know about it tomorrow. Oh, yeah, she's going to know about it tomorrow because I'm going to get right on the phone and call her. But thank you, everybody. Please show up down at our board meeting also. And let's stick together on this because we're all going to be, you know, negatively impacted equally.
And we're going to help organize with ALC on this issue.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, sure. It's most of the surrounding townships, of course.
Just Nan Latimer again. So I've been talking to Mary Gruber, everybody knows Mary, about getting the two boards together. And she has contacted the board through the secretary of this potential a get together, just so you know, so they are somewhat aware of it, or at least it's starting.
Good, good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Any other public comment?
Ryan Kelly, resident, KELLUI. I just want to echo all the comments so far. I generally align with all of them. I want to thank Township for hosting us and implore you to help us as much as you can. Dismayed and flabbergasted, honestly, that a piece of land and preserve that has been turned over to the state with such good intentions seems to be stolen and taken away in a very deceitful manner.
Yes.
I just can't understand it, honestly, and I'm extremely disappointed. If that is the case, I can't tell you how disappointed I am in the state of Pennsylvania. The one thing I'd like to add that hasn't come up specifically is I've been to a ton of campgrounds all over this country, national parks, state parks, from little pieces of dirt that you couldn't hardly find to great big campgrounds. And one similar to this, and this is not a quiet little go explore nature campground. This is come have a party campground. This is not going to be a quiet little place. The great gathering and all the RVs. So it's not going to be a quiet little thing back in the corner. This is a come have a party. The park's not big enough to host 500 people. So just wanted to share that because I hadn't heard that part specifically. So thanks for having us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
And I told my kids that this would be short, so I'm going to let them go.
My name's Will Trout, Trout. I kind of just want to reiterate as well. I'm new to the area, unlike a lot of you who've spoken, and part of what drew us to come here was preserves like this in Peacedale. And I hadn't given it as much thought, I guess, as all the other residents had, all the details of this. But certainly when I went to that meeting, it was shocking to see what was planned versus what I've just seen walking about. And I really appreciate all of the, considerations everyone had brought up here, things I hadn't thought of. And I generally agree with them. The thing that I've heard, not just here, but other places, that I think is the most distressing is just how you guys have said, sort of like steamrolled. That's just shocking. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comment? Oh, okay.
My name is Carmen Stoltzfus. I'm a taxpayer and a resident. I have been walking these trails for 20 years now. I go down Walker Road, I get emotional. And to Spring On. I've met a lot of good people down there. If they put this in, we are going to be doomed. We're going to have trash everywhere. We're going to have people that we don't know. And you never know if somebody's going to rape somebody or a stranger that we don't know where he's coming from. I mean, we don't need all this in our area. I mean, this is something you would see up in the Poconos, not down here in our peaceful little place. And I'm not happy with it. It's very upsetting. So.
Hi, Betsy Odgers, soon to be, I think, on the board of supervisors. My question was, initially, Mount Cuba paid $12 million into buying this property, and I'm just wondering, have we gotten in touch with anybody? I can't imagine that they think a campground would be a good idea. I mean, they were the biggest donor.
Can I just save time for everyone here?
Sure, I'm done.
I'm Tia Consorto. I'm a township resident and I was not going to speak tonight. But just to quell all the questions. Yes, Mount Cuba has been made aware. The Conservation Fund has been aware and they are in contact with DCNR, letting them know that they're not happy with the plans. Mr. Strawbridge has been made aware. I'm trying to think who else. There's an awful lot of things going on my end with Representative Lawrence and all the wonderful people in our township and Elk that have been very helpful. The petitions are going very well. We have over 900 signatures on the online petition. There is a petition from Representative Lawrence's office that I have been working on getting signatures for, along with a bunch of other people who have been very kind in helping. I spent 5 hours at the Elk Township office on Monday getting signatures. They are aware of what is going on. They are not happy and they are very willing and ready to work with you.
Can I just ask you a question? Are they all surprised? Like you have a lot of connections. Is everybody as surprised as you are?
Everybody is floored.
So it sounds like it was done on purpose, like it was not done by accident.
This was 100% DSCNR hiding it from everyone. The survey was written to be very biased, and to just push their already made up minds and say, yes, everybody wants camping. Look at this, because they couldn't say no. John Lawrence is working on it on multiple avenues. He's working on legislation to keep a preserve and prevent it from being able to be turned into a state park. He's in constant contact with Cindy Dunn and John Hollis and writing letters back and forth with them. He's been very supportive on our end of making sure that we're aware of what he's doing and he's aware of what we're doing. And I will tell you today that I had a reporter from WHYY at my home. They came and they did an article. They came out and took photos. There will be a news radio spot, and then there will be a large online article about it as well. And there were residents that came to my home as well. I opened up the house for everybody to say their piece and have their time to talk to the reporter. So that's been done as well. I did not. I didn't, but I feel like anybody. So if there are questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm happy to answer them. I've been inundated for the past week with awful lot of phone calls, emails, and messages, but I'm trying to answer everyone.
Are you a concerned citizen? Like, how did you get in the middle of all this?
I went to the meeting on Monday night and I was so angry, I was shaking.
Okay.
And I just got very upset and didn't know what to do. So I decided I'm going to start this online petition, and it kind of snowballed. And suddenly I became the face of let's save Big Elk Creek.
Well, thank you
So-
very much. That's good work.
So if there are questions, I don't know if this is allowed, but I do have the paper petition here. If anyone would like to sign it. So I do have it with me. If that's. So if anybody hasn't signed it and would like to, I'm happy to pass it around. So, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Okay, that's the other thing I have an issue with is the way they did the survey. So the survey went out over the summer and DCNR was very sneaky, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but there were 2 different surveys. No, this was all online. So people like our Amish neighbors were never able to put their input in. Also, they know now and they have signed the petition. So you had to look for it. So they sent out, so there were QR codes on little posters that were posted in the park. That was one survey. It was their way of getting the locals' opinion. There was another survey that was on DCNR's website that was sent out more than statewide. It went to multiple states and anybody that was on DCNR's mailing list. They were hoping by doing it this way that they were separating the locals with the QR code on a poster from the rest of the world on their website. Representative Lawrence sent out a letter to his constituents with the link to the website and messed up their numbers. So they could not divide it the way they wanted to. But yeah, it went out over the summer. It was super biased, and I know you guys have other things to do. So thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
your
much.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is there any other public comment of folks who haven't spoken yet?
One quick thing for her.
It's not allowed in state parks. Yeah.
Bald Eagle State Park. Every
Yeah.
state park has no alcohol. Bald Eagle State Park has a pavilion that you
Yeah.
can go and consume alcohol.
Yeah. I'm not sure we have any.
It says you're not allowed to possess alcohol. They don't sell alcohol, but you're allowed to go to the pavilion and consume alcohol within the state park. Look up Bald Eagle when you see that. So they can bring alcohol in there.
So do we have any other public comment from folks who haven't spoken yet?
Yeah, Dave, I'd like to speak. Do
Okay.
you allow online people?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Paul.
This is Paul Overton. I'm a resident. I attended the November 6th meeting, as sounds like many people have. And First, I just want to state, I also don't like the campground. I think it is too big of a development for what should be a less developed preserve. So I'm on your side, right? But I do want to take the temperature down a little bit. I feel like there's this conspiracy theory developing here where I don't, maybe I'm gullible, but I don't think it was underhanded or planned that way. I think what happened is, they took some surveys and some stakeholder meetings, and maybe they didn't get to everybody they should have. I agree. But in the meeting on November 6th, there was plenty of time for public comment out in the lobby, and they had you fill out in writing a public comment card, or you could do it online as well. So I personally filled out half a dozen comment cards. They had different tables. You went to one table to comment on hiking, one to comment on hunting, one to comment on the camping, whatever. I went to multiple tables and filled out multiple cards as they requested. So I felt like I got my input. They listened to me, they discussed it with me, they heard my concerns. And I heard this as a preliminary design. I don't think they're steamrolling it in. I think they took a shot at a design and I think they missed the mark is what happened. And that with all of your feedback and how angry everybody is, I hope they'll listen. I think they will. And that I don't think it's the end of the road here, that this is a done deal. I think they gave us that first meeting to collect our input, and that hopefully they will adjust the design to something a little more reasonable.
All right, thank you, Paul.
All right, we have a comment.
Can I just respond to that?
Let's respond.
Laura Davalos again. I talked to John Lawrence today, and he actually had a conversation with Cindy Dunn and with John Hollis regarding these plans and his concerns, and they were not receptive to any of that. They didn't want, he gave them the opportunity to shut this down now. You've seen all the opposition, you saw the reaction. So why don't you make a public statement that you are going to discard this plan and make it low impact? And they declined to do that at all. They wanted to go ahead with this plan. And so I really feel like those comment cards were thrown in the trash because they did not want to talk to John Lawrence about this at all.
And I think that just to add to that, collecting comment cards is great, but that's avoiding this, right? It's avoiding a face-to-face conversation and dealing with the anger.
They did not want people to make public comments in the auditorium because they did not want everyone around to hear how everybody felt. They wanted private one-on-one conversations with each individual person, which with 200 people in attendance is kind of ridiculous because you can't get to the people that you need to talk to.
So I agree with that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else who hasn't made a public comment yet? You can do, we'll do two. I just want to get some people, we're going to try and wrap up some of this public comment by 8:30. So I want to get people who haven't spoken up in front.
I just have one quick. My name is Mary Schlachter, SCHLACHTER. And I am not a resident of Franklin Township, but I drive through it many, many times to go to Fair Hill because I volunteer there quite a bit. And with the equine things. But I just wanted to maybe address something with what the lawyer said. Because I've gone through conditional use with my own township. And so that word hasn't come up. So, but because the guy was talking about the control, that the township should have control. Won't they have to go through conditional use to this is kind of.
That's all right. No, please everyone understand, again, I don't have a plan, so I don't know what they're doing. So I've read the AR zoning rights. There are uses that are by right, which means you don't need conditional use. Then there are uses to which they want to put a property that require conditional use from this board. Then there are certain uses that might even need what I would call a variance, which some lawyers might call a special exception, which goes to the ZHB. So based upon what I know, which is very, very little. So consider that.
Mhm.
When I read by right uses, it talks about not-for-profit public parks. So then I look around to see what is the definition of a not-for-profit public park. What does it allow? And then it gets a little bit where you're going to need lawyers, good lawyers, maybe a couple to do that research. I also did research as far as what is a quote preserve, close quote, as it might be differentiated from a quote park, close quote, and its legal definition. There's no legal definition of a preserve. In other words, as you hear the word preserve used, and I can tell you, and I love to be corrected when I'm wrong, but I can't find something that says a park is X and a preserve is Y, and here's how you differentiate between them in a municipal approval setting. So all of those issues sort of just like avalanche onto a lawyer's desk, and he or she needs to parse through them, which is where I am, and I'll report to the board as to what what I come up with, so to speak.
Okay, and then that makes that a little clearer, and I think for all of us. And then, but I also want to say that it might be important they talked about the endangered species that maybe, well, for starters, with all these citizens and groups, and we have somebody that was here from SAVE, and I'm familiar with that because I live not very far from Route 1 or Route 41. And so I'm familiar with SAVE, and I know what's going on with the roundabouts they're going to put there. But what I want to say is that it might behoove this group of people to start an organization like that, get your own lawyer, and have to go possibly to that route at some, ideally, they wouldn't have to do that. Ideally, you guys that are in charge, the supervisors from here in Elk Township would be able to squash it, but there's a possibility that in the future they might have to, and maybe not the too far future, have to create a organization and get their own lawyer. So because I've kind of been there and done that, so I kind of understand that. So I thought I would express that. So thanks for listening.
Thank you for the time. So as we're kind of running up against time, is there any comments from Elk Township or Franklin Township residents who haven't spoken yet? Who'd like to speak?
My name is Paulo Machado, last name Machado. I'm from the old continent. I'm from Europe. I'm an American also. I was attracted to this area because of the land. And the reason why it's attractive, it's because there were very few people in it. And that's why it thrives. That's why it's green. And that's why it has so many species that live on it. It's one of the last pockets of untouched land around here. And as you get closer to the East Coast, you just have concrete and asphalt. I live by that triangle on the left, an inch left of it. But it's not about me. I would have a parking lot 500 feet from my driveway as a trailhead, but it's not about me. I think the bigger picture here is that because we live in this land, maybe we can see things that not a lot of people see. That makes us stewards. That makes us defenders of the land. And I appreciate you getting us together so we can share our voices. It seems to me that the plan that is already afoot lacks transparency. That gentleman filled out 10 cards. We don't know where and they ended up. I filled one and I didn't turn it in. I didn't feel heard. And the surveys that were shared with us, the results, we don't know if they were tweaked or not, because we didn't have any representatives checking out our voices. I would consider raising our voices higher to protect something that not everyone sees. This land has given me fresh, bigger eyes to understand that I am, because I'm connected to something bigger than myself. And that's clean air, good water to drink, and soil that grows vegetables and feeds animals. Okay, thank you.
It's just about, you know, from the city of Brooklyn,
Hi, my name's Bonnie Bob. I'm a resident of the township. I actually grew up in this area. My father grew up in this area, my grandparents. I've been a long time resident of Strickersville Road. Okay. I lived in Newark for a few years and talked my husband into coming back out here and looking for a house when we decided we wanted to have children and go to the school district, things like that. I just could not stand to live in town of Newark and see all the houses because I grew up out in this beautiful land. It breaks my heart through the years, and I hate to say it, but seeing developments and things like that, because when I grew up, there was farmland. You got on a sled in the wintertime and went sledding on Strickersville Road. Things like that. I've seen the road full of blizzards. Road bikes, a regular bike, not one with gears, all over this land. Walked all of it. White Clay Creek, been to all of it. To see this, I don't know, I'm a camper. I don't have an RV, but I have been in them and camped. This is just overwhelming. It's just, and I feel like it's been put in our face with a laugh, actually. The way they presented it, as all of you know here, they just said, oh, this land's so pretty, blah, blah, blah. Everybody else said it too. The flowers and the orchids and the butterflies in the fields. And then they put a slide up and show this, what they're doing. And it's not just the RV camping. It's the multi-use camping where they bring buses in. That's what that first little oval is. That I don't know if any of you realize that. It's group camping.
Great gathering.
Yes. They bring buses in and they camp in great big masses. The one to the right left is the RV. The one towards the back, I think, was the Yorks. Is that how you say it?
Years.
The other is family camping. And then, I don't know if you noticed it, that little circle off to the right there is walk-in tent camping. Most people didn't realize that was there, I don't think. And that's the one that's closest to the creek, I think. I think most of us probably would be okay. I hate to say it, with a very small 20 or under tent camping, like walk-in, rustic. But when you start having lights that you're going to look out to and smoke, like everybody else said, just think what that's going to do to all the animals, the bats at nighttime. Are you going to look up and see the stars? No, because there's going to be lights. And it won't just be from the buildings. It'll be from every car going in and out and every camper going in and out at every time of the night. It's just going to ruin the area. It's going to ruin it. And you think about, okay, 80 campsites. How many people are in each one of those 80 campsites? Not just one. I don't know. I live Brothers Riding. Number 2. I live where the sign is. There's an iron bridge, and I'm sure you're all aware of that iron bridge. Lots of trucks have hit it. It's the only one in PA. The other ones are in Maryland for Fair Hill that go across the bridge. Go across the road. I asked the meeting because dumps right into my yard. I said, I got the guy that spoke. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. I pulled him aside after everybody else left the auditorium. I went over to him and waited and waited and waited to talk to him. And I was told from a couple of the other people to talk to him. He would know the answer. So I waited. I talked to him. I said, do you know what they're going to do with the iron bridge? He goes, well, what iron bridge? He goes, the one that goes across the creek? And I said, no, the one that goes across the top of Strickersville Road. Oh, that's the one with the writing on it, I think, they told me. And I said, yeah. I said, do you know what you're going to do with it? He said, no. And I said, well, I would really like to be informed about that. And then he proceeded to ask me, does your property hit up onto it? Is that part of your land? I said, well, I don't know. And he said, he goes, tell you the truth, I've never been out there and looked at any of that. And I just looked at him and I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, how can you present this to everybody in this auditorium and not ever walk the land? I just couldn't believe he said that. I just said, okay, thank you. And I walked out. I just like, it's useless. I mean, they had a plan. They sat at their desks, drew it up, and that was the end of it. I must say too, that one time I was out in my backyard and I just was on my deck. My property looks out down the valley, up the hill. And I look out and there's 4 or 5 people walking in my yard. And every once in a while, somebody will walk and they'll say, knock on the door and say, oh, can I cut through here? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, yeah. But they ask permission. Well, a couple of them were in uniforms. Well, I didn't know what these uniforms were. Never knocked on the door. Nothing. Put my dog in the house and I went, hey, can I help you? Here it was, the park rangers. And I guess it was, they were looking at the bridge. They wanted to get on the bridge to see if it was capable of being repaired. And I said, well, you can't get through it here because a drop goes down. I said, I'm not being smart. You just can't go this way. I said, you have to go down further and cut across and climb over the fence in my yard that's there, or you're going to have to go down the road or across the street and then go through the field that way. That's the only way you can access it. You can't come from right from my yard into it. So that's what they did. I never heard back from them. I told them, I said, let me know what you're thinking. Never heard. Now this was what, year before? Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a shame.
Should told to walk across the bridge.
Yeah. I do have a question now. I know I'm been talking. And I don't know, I've been reading so much on this. My understanding was Mount Cuba, along with the Conservation Fund, bought the land under the umbrella of White Clay Creek Preserve. The White Clay Creek Preserve was started, as probably a lot of you know, I think it was Jimmy Carter, signed that it would be a preserve once the dam was stopped that they were going to put in. So that meant that it was a low density park and it was under a government national thing. Carter said, this is the way it's going to be. It was one of the first preserves around. And this land was bought under that, from what I understand. So how do you go from a protected preserve to a state park that can be high density? That's the way they describe it when you look up. I mean, I know you were talking that you couldn't find a difference anywhere, but when you look on every government write-up about the White Clay Creek Preserve, they talk about high density and low density parks and the difference between preserve and park, state park land, even though they're both going to be run by the state park. I just don't understand how they could separate it, because from what I understood, you couldn't separate a preserve from and make it into a state park high density thing if it was bought under umbrella. I guess we would have to see the contract, huh?
Very good question.
Anyway, that bothers me. Plus, this is also under Chesapeake Bay watershed, which they're very strict also. So I know it runs off the Elk Creek is, so I don't know what that involves, but when you look up their stuff, it also says you can't build buildings, things like that, anywhere near the watershed. So, thank you.
So, well, absolutely, I'll give out a couple more comments and then we'll have you talk.
Hi, my name is Jen Burbage and I'm a resident. I live in Brothers Riding. And I sort of echo Michelle, where at the beginning of this, you know, can everything stay the same for always? I don't know that that's possible. But obviously there's frustration, confusion, questions. As you move forward and champion us, I want you to take forward that we're afraid. The way this was done is we're fearful. I mean, we want safe water. Is this going to impact, I know state roads, but our roads, our township budgets? I would hope and I feel that that's what's taken forward. We want to feel safe about the process. And that's not what we're feeling. Making no statement, not replying, not communicating to the people we elect to be in power for us is very upsetting. So thanks for your time.
Any final comments or questions?
I'll make it quick, just come to the table here instead of working my way through. I've been up to Harrisburg for rallies before, okay, for our other constitutional rights. There are no office hours in the Harrisburg Legislative Hall during the weekend. You have, if you want to see the legislators, you must go on the weekday. If you want to go into the rotunda, you must get a permit from them to have a rally in the rotunda. You may show up on the steps any day of the year and have a rally, okay? But if you want to get inside in the rotunda, you must get a permit first. And if you want to go into their offices, some of them are very amenable to that. You must go on in the weekday.
Thank you.
John Lawrence is working on that.
He wants to make sure we have enough
You want-
people.
right, we want to
that
make sure
there's
we have enough
impact.
people to do that.
He doesn't want to do it if not enough people are coming, so we're gonna need commitment
Right.
from everybody to go and take off work and do it.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. We do need to move on to some other township business. I appreciate everybody coming out. On the website, there is contact information. You'll see an announcement on the website that looks something like this. In there's going to be a list of representatives that you can reach out to, emails, phone numbers. Please do. And we are going to keep you posted with when we're going to have that town hall and who will be in attendance. So thank you all. So for now, I think we have the largest look. Yeah, yeah. So.
Thank you for having us.
No, I would expect a lot.
So folks online, we're just letting the residents sign some petitions and leave before we move on to the rest of the meeting. Well, I know. I don't know how I feel about that. All right. Well, it's never a dull moment. Oh. All right, folks. So we're gonna get back to the agenda here. Thank you, everybody who came tonight and the folks who came online. All right, where are we? Approval of minutes.
There we go. All right, we're moving along. All right, so we're going to talk about the October 18th, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes. So I make a motion that the board approve the October 18th, 2023 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dawn. Any discussion? Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We lost Stefan.
I think you take a rest.
So can we go for it? We can go 4-0, right? Okay. Okay, motion carries 4-0.
I guess I'm on. I want to introduce Melissa Ortega with the October Treasurers Report.
The October 2023 Treasurers Report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $128,954.32. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $13,490.93. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,608.46. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $0. Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,149,256.28.
Thank you, Melissa. I make a motion that the board approve the October 2023 Treasurers Report as presented by Melissa Ortega. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Donna. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 still.
I'd like to introduce Ron Reagan and Jeff Eastburn to talk about the 2024 road program.
Ron, you're still with us, right, young man?
I'm unmuting and turning on the video so you can see my pretty face. The road program, Jeff, I guess, had robotics come in earlier this fall and had robotics go out and do another survey of the roads. And we're relying pretty heavily on that to help us identify what roads we want to look at and consider for a 2024 project. But in addition to that, we did go out and physically look at all of the roads that we were considering based on a combination of the information that we got from robotics and the site visits. We narrowed it down to 8 streets that we were considering paving of some level. Some of them were the entire road. Some of them were just portions of the road. If I don't know if you have, I had sent the PDF over. Does the board have a copy of that? And do you want to put it up on the screen, or I could probably share the screen if you could give that over to me as well.
Yep, I will share the screen, Ron.
Okay.
And yes, they were given a copy of it. You should be able to share now.
Okay, can you see that table?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Basically, these are the 8 streets that I mentioned that we pulled off robotics and then also went out and visited. We visited other ones as well, but these are the ones that we narrowed it down to. In the column that's got the robotics score at the heading of the column, that gives you the number for the entire road. Unfortunately, robotics gives us the entire road in a summary, and then it has segments. So for the first 6 roads listed in this table, those are for the entire length. And the entire length is what we're considering doing for those portions of the road. for those particular streets. The Cavender Lane and Parsons Road, those numbers from the robotics score are the numbers for the entire road, but we've done work on those in the past years, so it reflects the areas that are getting a very low score and the areas that are getting a slightly higher score. And what we want to do now is do a portion of those roads so that that number is more in line with the ones in the high twos as far as the quality. And again, that's the lower the number, the better the road is. The higher the number, the worse the road is. We're looking at the 8 roads to basically mill and resurface the roads the way we've been doing roads in the past few years. If we did all of those roads, we're looking at $385,000 approximately in column A. About in the middle there, it says the total paving budget. And then what I did was to provide, because Melissa wouldn't give me that much money, we had to go back and try to look at some different options. What we ended up, we had a meeting the other day with some of the supervisors. Jeff and Melissa did not meet wasn't in the meeting the whole time, but she was there for part of it. We came up with ones where we thought we could hit our target of a little over $200,000 by doing the roads that are listed in the colored columns E, F, and G. And those would be about a little over $200,000, about $215,000, I think is what that came out to. That was the targeted amount that we had for work for paving in 2024. And part of the reason that that's the amount that we have, and it's a little bit less than what we've had in the past, is that we've got a couple of stormwater or drainage projects that we need to take a look at doing next year. And that's what I've got there listed as replace Southview Estates Trench number 2 and replace Thompson Estates Trench number 3. And those combined will cost about $183,000. Now that's, I think it's kind of a worst case. That's assuming that those would both be total replacements. We may be able to salvage some of those once we start excavating to see what's actually there and what's causing the failure. But we would be considering doing those 2 projects, and then the road paving projects that are in the colored columns, and be spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000.
Ron, do both the trenching works need to be done this year?
We have had them on the list now for a couple of years, and we've been getting, I think, Jeff, maybe you could speak to that as well. I think we've been getting fairly routine complaints every time it rains pretty hard that these systems are not working. The one in Southview Estates results in water, pretty severe runoff going into a private residence yard around the house and down through the backyard, causing erosion. And the Thompson Estates one is eroding off the top of my head, I would say about a 1,500-foot stretch of stream down through woods, to the extent that it was being considered as a drainage project last year to repair just the erosion that was happening at Parsons Mill Road before we did the paving. Then we decided that we couldn't solve that problem and we wanted to go ahead and do the paving, so we did the paving. But both of those are causing problems. So short answer, yes, I would say those are important to do as quickly as we can.
Okay, so it's critical to get those done. Perfect.
Yeah, so we drove by them. Jim and I were with Jeff and Ron, and it's a trench. I mean, it's like 15 feet trench.
It's also expanded from something small in like a year to something very large.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
what about the one thing here in the in our book? What's the probability that we find out that Thompson Estates is not under the jurisdiction or under the responsibility of the township? And because it seems like we did the work on Southview, and that is, but we don't have an answer yet on Thompson. So it seems like it might very well likely be, or?
We need to do some further research, and Mr. Thompson will weigh in on a legal opinion regarding that.
I will.
Yeah, Mr. Thompson. Mr.
But I still think we need to put the money aside for it, just, I mean, we don't have a final legal position, but, I think we need to plan. You don't have to spend it, but I think we need to plan.
Yeah, we're not setting this in stone tonight.
So
This is,
what I might suggest would be that if we don't get this resolved in the next, I'm anticipating we'd like to bid this before the end of the year so we can be paving.
Thank you.
In June, like we want to do, like we were doing last year rather than paving in October or something. So I would say that we can put out a bid that does an ad alternate or just a statement that says that we can award or reject all or portions of the bid package. So what we might want to do is include both Southview Estates trench work, Thompson Estates trench work, and then maybe add another road in the bid package so that if we do save some money, either because we find out we don't need to do Thompson Estates, or that we find out that when we dig into Thompson Estates, it's less, we can't see into the ground to know what we're going to find. So if we find out that it's a lesser of a project, we might be able to save some money on it, then we could do another road. So that would be my recommendation in terms
Or
of
not,
the
or
bidding.
not. Yeah,
Or
so
not,
there,
yeah.
so just,
Just
I mean,
save money.
right, I mean, we're gonna get to the budgets eventually. But MS4 is something that's hanging over our head. And Melissa and the team, this group has done a great job trying to make sure we put money aside for it, but it's not enough. We did what we could. So any dollar we can save someone, I don't ever want to put a road in jeopardy. If there's work that needs to be done, we need to do it. But I'm not looking for a road. If we don't need it, I'm not
Right.
looking for one.
Well, and I think the comment that I was gonna make when I look at this is how we're prioritizing. And, it kind of goes to the question, to kind of add to Donna's point, that my position isn't going to be we're gonna let roads fail, but none of these roads based on their score is in bad shape.
Yeah.
And so none of these would be roads in previous years we would consider fixing, because we would have far worse roads. And so when you look at something like, my question is prioritization. Parsons Road has a 1-3, which is very good quality road.
You have to look at
Well,
it.
one,
Yeah.
There's segments, right? There's segments.
yeah,
that they want.
the segments that we're doing, I would say probably
So-
average closer to 3.
So my question, so here's where I'm going to, is I have no idea how to prioritize these, because if I look at the numbers, the prioritization seems to be randomized because we're talking about road segments, not necessarily the total road quality. So how do I make a judgment when you guys are going through this, saying, okay, based on each scenario, E, F, and G, based on your expertise, what's the critical path forward, right? Is it G, is it F, is it E?
It's E, F, and G.
So it's all three. It's all three together.
And remember, you have liquid fuel money. So there is a group of there is a bolus of money that we need to spend on roads. And that's the 200.
Am I reading this wrong?
C and D are the non-prioritized.
So E, F, and G are 3 different columns. And so I'm looking at $500,000, $700,000.
You can look at here, 70, 80, and 65. This is the F to G right here.
So I'm looking at 2024 total at the bottom.
Yeah, look at this. This is what you're gonna get. And if you put them all together, it's about 215.
So what is this?
That's the trench work. So I think it takes it's the total. So it takes it all together, but don't look at it as a total. Look at it as, this is liquid fuel. It needs to be spent on the roads. And that we have about,
Okay, so we're gonna do all of this.
right. That's the proposal.
This is what we got to.
Okay, I gotcha. All right, I understand that.
And Chisholm Creek.
I was thinking that E, F, and G were each individualized proposals.
Chisholm Creek's not, it's a maybe.
So I have a question then. When I look at the bottom
It's
line,
not in E, F, or G.
Right.
Yeah, so when I look at this page and I see 2024
Mhm.
total,
Mhm.
I see three numbers, 250,000, 263, and 248.
All right, when I was originally given guidance on how to target what I was trying to put together in terms of a package, I was told to try to spend around $250,000. So that's how we ended up with these options. I started out with what was the total amount, and I started cutting down and said, well, maybe I can push it to a little over 3. And then I said, well, I need to get down to that 250 number because that's what I was asked to try to do. So that's where A, B, C, and D, got down to the point where E, F, G, and H, I got down in that 250 ballpark. So then Melissa found some more money, and that's why we ended up grouping E, F, and G into one larger package. So what you would do would be to take and add up the total paving for E, F, and G and add that to the 183 for Thompson and Southview Estates.
All right, so that total isn't on this sheet.
It's not on this. It's about, I think it came out to about 415 total, or no, about 400,000 total.
215.
Can you, I just want to clarify something, Ron. We have roughly $200,000 in liquid fuels. Liquid fuels can only be used for paving. So even if we want to cut the budget for this MS4 reserve account, we're not, because we have Thompson Estates, which does not come out of liquid fuels. It comes out of the capital fund.
Right.
So that kind of, excuse my French, it kind of screws us big time, because I was under the thought that we could use liquid fuels for other things. And, now so what happens if we don't use all our liquid fuels? Is it use it or lose it? And can it carry over to next year?
I can take a shot at that, or Melissa can. Melissa, let me try it first. You can correct me. Liquid fuels can be spent on other things besides paving. You could use it to pay for the snow removal. You could use it to pay for any other kind of maintenance that you do on the roads. And it can be carried over. So it's not like if you don't use all of it, you lose it. If you don't use all of it for paving, you lose it. You can use it on other things, and you can carry it over.
I want to be clear, the roads that you pick, it's just, it's not like you just want to spend 215,000. These roads need work. I mean, we talked about Cavender and Parson. We saw it on robotics. They're like falling in these sections, and they're all alligatored out. So that needs to be done. We looked at the Hunting Hills and South Hunting Hills on robotics. Once again, these are roads that need to get done. We have the liquid fuel money. Why not? Why not do it? I don't understand why we wouldn't do it.
So part of the reason that I came up with splitting it is all the road paving you can cover under liquid fuels under the publication 9, whereas the trench work you cannot. So that's where we can use the money from the capital reserve, and you get your bang for your buck.
I mean, I'm in agreement with, but I'm just thinking, I don't think, so we're not agreeing a road program tonight anyways. We're starting to talk about it, but I think what we were trying to do out of this conversation is figure out, when we look at the budget, how much money do we have to have in the capital fund to cover work that has to get done? And also we have a budget for liquid fuels. And I think we're seeing that the 215 or whatever it is, 200, whatever's in the liquid fuel, it's about right to cover this work. So we're in a good place for the road program. We probably don't need to add too much more money to it besides liquid fuels to deal with the roads. And then
Just to be clear, we have 200 for liquid fuels, right? 200.
250. What is it?
Or is it 2?
It's in here.
We have 197, and it's projected that we're going to have to take 18 out of the capital fund, and that's in the budget. I have it.
That's right. That's good. I got
Yeah.
it.
We're good. It's tough. The road program, this is.
One other comment that the Thompson, if I got this right, Ron, that one of them, I think it's Thompson, they're going to do an interim step first. So as opposed to spending the whole 142K to start with, they're going to do some work, look and see what's actually inside the trench. I mean, that looks, I don't know, you have to dig or something, right? And then you want to see if your thought process and how to fix it is correct, or maybe there's a faster way, a cheaper, not cheaper is not the right word.
Better way.
Your better way of doing it. So that will be done in 2 steps, but, it won't fix it won't fix the erosion. What it will do is fix the issue, and then we'll see if it works. And if it works, then we can go and fix the erosion at a later time.
Yeah, the erosion fix wouldn't be in 2024.
Right.
And we don't know what the split is of the 142, 928, 75 between exploratory and finish until we do the.
No, we don't know how, if I may, we don't know how far we're gonna have to dig into that trench to find a problem, if it's the entire trench. This is approximately a 50-foot wide by 160-foot long stormwater field or trench. So it's a big best management practice facility that it's not like Southview Estates is about 20% of that size. So, it's dig into it, and I like to try to structure the bids so that we can set it up with an exploratory phase, and then a second phase that would be to follow up and do work based on unit cost, so that we say, okay, if we end up having to take out this much more of the bed and replace it, we can do it under that same bidding mechanism, because I don't want to dig it open to do their expiration to find out what we need to do and have it sit there for a month while we do another bid for whatever we find.
Sounds good.
I think this is good news. Because, and now, of course, we all know January, you guys look at the roads again, and we'll see if something blows up over the winter. But I think it shows that what we're planning to do with the budget, and if you look at the budget, we really don't have a whole lot going into the road program, right? It's just for paving. It's very much all trench.
Right.
And I think we're okay. I think we can do what we need to do.
Well, plus we've done that.
And I think the other thing to think about with the trench work, once it's done, it's done. This isn't a recurring cost, right? So
It has to be done.
well, right, but it's not like it's going to be $100,000 and $200,000 every year. It's so that's good.
Why wouldn't they be responsible for Thompson's estate? We're gonna talk.
I'm going to address that with all due respect. Sorry, no, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm going to address that during executive session.
All right, thank you very much.
As under the category of providing legal advice.
Thank you. So thank you. So do we have any other questions on the road program? This is a great start. It's actually good news that we've gotten our township to this point where our roads are in kind of maintenance mode. So this is good news. All right. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, I'm going to sign off then. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, Stefan.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to give the zoning officer's report. The report is compiled by the zoning officer and includes a number of permits processed for the month of October. In the month of October, 9 permits were issued, totaling $2,031.50 in permit fees, 0 miscellaneous fees, 0 in recreations, open space, and 0 impact fees were collected. There were 59 inspections performed.
All right, so now I would like to introduce Andrea Roberts to provide the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space report.
Hello, good evening. I'm glad we are finally at this point of the conversation. Thank you for having me. So just a quick review of the November Pro Board meeting. First up was Bamshire Preserve. Last Board of Supervisors meeting, Paul Overton reviewed with you that there were several places at Bamshire Preserve that needed regrading. That was approved by the Board of Supervisors. The work was completed on November 4th and November 5th by Pro Board member Overton and 6 local volunteers on Saturday and then 2 on Sunday. I did provide several photos to the board, and I'd be happy to share those. Or Jeff, did they get those?
We're making you a presenter.
Yeah. They did get them. You're making
Yes,
a
they're in our meeting books.
Okay, I'd be happy to share them if I
Please
can
do.
share my screen here.
Yep. Yeah, there we go.
So the photo on the left, you'll see there was a switchback created to reduce the slope of the trail grade. And then on the right, you'll see that they rebuilt. They did a rebuild from. There was a fallen tree root ball that was affecting the grade, and so that was smoothed out. I think Paul is still on the call if he wants to speak to any of this, but it looks very nice, and I think they put in a lot of time, and they did a nice job.
All right, thank you.
Next up is an update on Crossan Park. We have been talking about for quite some time placing stone around newly planted trees. Trees planted last year. The work was completed by Betsy Odgers and several other volunteers. We continue to work on the You Are Here maps for Crossan Park. An issue we've kind of come across is we'd like to be able to include some information about the origins of Crossan Park. Jeff was able to find a file down at the Township building, and so I think several of our pro board members are going to come and go through that and see if we can find anything. And certainly if there are any, residents of the township or community members that have information they'd like to share, that would have been a good thing maybe to, while we had the whole community earlier, ask them then. And then the last update on Crossan Park, we are still talking about rerouting an existing path from the lower lot below the soccer field to the lower pavilion. We'll walk this with the Board of Supervisors probably once in a couple months, once the leaves have fallen and the foliage is gone. At Goodwin Preserve, I contacted Tim Masters from Wild Things Plants and Healthcare. He visited Goodwin Preserve and did an analysis on the issue we're having with the white oak trees. He said there is an oak leaf skeletonizer and an oak leaf or an oak slug sawfly. They're killing all of the white oak trees. His suggestion is to spray next season. The cost is about $3,000 to spray. We talked at our pro board meeting about whether or not it's a possibility that they don't come back prior to, next season. If we have a very cold winter, is there a possibility they don't come back and we can save the trees? That's something that I'm going to reach out to Tim about and see if I can get some information on. Certainly if we could avoid, spending the money to spray, that would be great. But I think we also don't want to lose all the oak trees. So we're trying to come up with some options here. There is an available grant that might help with the expense of this work, which would be great. That information was just sent to us, and so we're looking into whether or not that it would be applicable to this issue. Other items, open space conservation. The pro board was approached by the Chester County Planning Commission. They'd like to present to us alongside with the Brandywine Conservancy on the topic of open space and trail preservation. They are going to join our meeting on December 6th, and we would welcome all Board of Supervisor members to join and listen if you're available. We have started to expand upon the 2024 initiatives for the pro board. Continued talk of trail maintenance, the path at Crossan Park, trail signs, and upgrading the playground. There was a decent bit of talk of upgrading the playground, whether or not any of the grants that are currently out there might help with that. I think we know it's probably not a priority for the Board of Supervisors, but something that we want to put information together on so that, when the time comes, if a grant is available, we can try and move forward on it. So we're going to start working on all of those things. New business. We did have a resident reach out and they'd like to add a memorial tree at Crossan Park. I have contacted them and we are going to determine a location. This planting wouldn't happen until spring of 2024. Next item is the big Elk Creek State Park. We talked about that pretty briefly. All board members, pro board members were encouraged to attend. And I think we have probably discussed that topic enough tonight. The last item there is around 36 Preservation Partnership Grant Program. It's open for applications. We think this grant may be great to help with the funding for trail maintenance, trail signage, playground equipment. And so, like I said previously, we're going to work on that for 2024. I will say, since our meeting, I was contacted by a local Boy Scout who presented to us several months ago about trail signage at Crossan Park. He is getting ready to, he's almost finished preparing to present that information to the Pro Board. And so hopefully we have something to share on that soon. Additional topics, the Bamshire sign posted on the closed trail. It was brought to our attention that the sign that was posted just said that the trail was closed. It did not necessarily, it didn't specify that it was closed for hunting. And so we talked about whether or not that was something that could be changed. Since our meeting, it was discussed that this particular topic was approved by the Board of Supervisors, by a Board of Supervisor member prior to installation. And we just asked that because the community is discussing this specific thing, maybe next year when the sign goes up, the verbiage can be modified. Other item, Crossan Park bathrooms. So last year, the Pro Board discussed adding a porta potty at Crossan Park. It was not approved by the Board of Supervisors. The topic was raised again at this last meeting. It was not an agenda item. One of the Pro Board members asked about it. And Jeff Eastburn shared with us that he had received pricing for mini split HVAC units for those bathrooms. He did not have a specific price on them with him at the meeting. He was not expecting to have to review that, but he said it would cost approximately about $10,000. The Pro Board would like to revisit the topic of the porta potty, which would cost about $100 a month. It could be placed out of sight of the parking lot and have a fence around it so it blends in a little bit better with the surroundings. Again, I know last year you guys did not approve it. And so I'm not sure if that's something that you guys would be open to discussing again this year.
So I think we were discussing that as a possibility for this winter. Was not the case. I can't remember when they brought this up. I don't think it was it last year, 2022 or 2023?
I'll rely on Andrea for that.
I don't remember, but
I think it was early 2023.
Yeah, I was on the board then. I remember having this discussion.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think I think the board made their decision as far as porta potties for this year. If we want to revisit it with the new board, and I don't see why we can't do that. But this board here has already talked about it and decided. So.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, I think that pretty well wraps up our November meeting.
Thank you, Andrea. I was just talking to myself, apparently. So one of the line items on the agenda for the Park Recs Open Space Report was talking about the Big Elk State Creek park planning. We already heard from our residents a lot of feedback, but we haven't really talked as a group tonight about this subject and what our current thoughts are. I don't want to spend an hour, maybe. I think we're all kind of cooked, but I do want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of speak their mind and maybe what their initial impressions are. And I proposed a couple of items that we didn't formally approve, so I want to make sure that we're all in alignment there too. So I can start, Stefan, and then we'll work our way down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I can start. Sorry. No, thank you. One thing I was surprised I didn't know we were going to host a town hall meeting, considering what do you call it? Precedents. Setting precedents for future events, but that's fine. I just expressing that since we went back and forth on that. Anyway, Yeah, we touched on a lot of things I was thinking about throughout the meeting and and talking to Jim next to me as well. Contacting George Strawbridge.
To be fair, I was proposing it. I'm proposing it. We're gonna have a motion to propose town hall meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Contacting George Strawbridge, my former boss is very good friends with him. I'm assuming George is probably about 85 years old. So, and he's a conservationist, so I think he'd be a little ticked off about how things have changed. Guy talked about the idea of the differentiation, looking into the differentiation between park and preserve. Maybe that's done with. I also would be curious if there's any, I think we kind of touched on this too, a charter of when the transaction occurred, if, do's and don'ts on that. Like, I will sell this to the state of Pennsylvania, provided that you do not do this. So I don't know if there's any legal paperwork surrounding a contract. And then also very quickly, I also think we should get a right to know, since issue a right to know request, so that because it seems like a lot of townships residents here were saying that they were not given any information. They've asked and they basically said no. So I think a right to know would be beneficial. And maybe a signage at the park. The other thing I was also regarding making sure that people don't drink and sleep over and all that. And I know it's probably illegal, you can't do it, but I also would be curious about the reviewing our ordinances within our township, make sure everything is buttoned down, so that if we do have the ability at some point in the future that they have to follow our township rules, that our township rules are buttoned down so that we have it written the way we want this to happen.
Good point.
That's it.
Thank you. So for the right to know, who do we? I mean, Melissa. Okay. All right.
But is the DNCR sub D? Yeah, are they subject to the right to know?
Yes.
Okay. That was on my list too.
Okay.
And I'll just continue. I learned a lot tonight about, one thing that I'll say is that contiguous landowners to something like this, you have to listen to what they say. I mean, one thing that resonated, there's many things that resonated with me. One was the smoke from the fire. I mean, when somebody around my house, somewhere, even I don't even know where they are.
Oh yeah.
Most of the time,
You can
it
smell
lays low, it stays there. If you're gonna have, I didn't realize there were so many sites that they're planning on for this. And yeah, I mean, that seems ridiculous for the size of this property.
Yeah,
Completely ridiculous.
Really tight.
I did do the survey, and I agree with everybody that spoke about the survey. It was geared towards building whatever they wanted to. You didn't have a chance to say, I don't want camping there. They didn't say, do you want camping? Do you not want camping? They said, what kind of camping do you want here? And they only gave like a few, it was like drop down. You only gave a few types of responses. So also, I think we said that it was AR zoning.
Yes.
In that area.
So the camping's in Elkton, is Elk Township.
The R, supposedly the RVs and the cabins and the.
But things
Right.
change.
Yeah.
Right. So, and part of this is that, like, if elk balks more than we do in Franklin, could the state move it? That wouldn't be preferred at all.
Yeah. And it seems like we're right now, nothing against elk, but it seems like we're on top of it a little bit sooner than they are right now. So I think we can probably help them along a little bit too, to get them protected.
Yeah, can we change our ordinances at all to not allow RVs?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's not an acre district. Is this fall under acre where it's not agricultural?
So I was talking with Jeff about that very point earlier in the meeting, and I'd like to save that sort of discussion
Later.
for after the meeting, for our executive session.
Okay. Anything else?
So no, I just
Thanks,
following
Jim.
what the township and other residents had said. It doesn't sound like it's a legitimate opportunity for the state.
Mike Cochran from Elk Township's been in touch with me over the past
Okay,
couple of
great.
days pretty intensely.
Good.
So
Good.
I understand from him that Elk is very willing to work and meet and talk with us.
Okay. Donna?
So, I didn't fill out the survey. I might be living under a rock. I mean, I knew that they were going to make it a park, but I had no idea that it was going to turn into this
Yeah, that's
massive.
surprising.
Cause like everybody's a few campsites sound like nice, right? Go out in the woods with so, I am in favor of a town hall. I think it's a good idea to get us all together. I don't like the fact that no one seems to know what's going on, and that feels, even though Paul says he didn't feel it that way, it feels like it's intentional, and I don't like that. Tell us the story, let our folks make their comments, and then we can deal with it. So, I think we just need to continue to work on this, work with Guy, work with Elk, and make sure we can represent our residents the best we can.
Okay. And Dawn?
Well, everybody knows I'm a conservation baby, and I have to tell you, and I know Mr. Strawbridge as well, not personally, but through the Conservancy, this is never anything he would have intended for that piece of property.
Yeah.
And our comprehensive plan that we just finished last year, everybody says the same thing. And this would be a very high impact on our residents, our township, our roads, our traffic. I mean, there's just so much intense, things that are going to happen with this that
It's
directly impacts us.
It'll certainly change the nature of that protected land.
Exactly.
And it goes against,
And I know about aligning with different groups, but I just think this is an overall thing that all of our township people are going to agree with. So
Doesn't this also go against MS4 and the DEP? And if it does, right, if it does, can we get the DEP on our side so they can attack DCNR, whatever they are?
well, and one person had a very good comment because I have a little tributary to the Big Elk Creek. And the Big Elk Creek, we all know the MS4 and the runoff and the Chesapeake and all that water, you're talking about sewage there too. So, I mean, that's a huge, and the Big Elk Creek and all that, and the Chesapeake, that we'd have a lot of people being concerned about that. So I think the township hall is the best starting point, but I think there's a lot more to go with all of our help from all of our friends.
Okay, thank you. So, my point of view, I think I agree with everyone here on the board. This is something that was pretty shocking when it came out. We have a relationship, or at least we thought we had a relationship with the state parks. We talk to them pretty regularly. They've been our neighbors for quite a long time. And the way kind of a communication wall went up and how they're what feels like they're steamrolling this through is pretty shocking. So, I think my biggest a couple of concerns, an obvious concern is just they're not interested in having an open dialogue, right? And the kinds of things that we do here as a board is have this open dialogue. We're not afraid to have a room full of people yelling at us. They shouldn't be either. And so I think that's something that needs to change. So I had two proposals in mind in terms of motions. The first one Stefan brought up, which was making a motion to support a town hall and what that might entail. And then the second one is related to if we're going to make a unified public comment or letter and what that may contain. And so let's start with the town hall meeting. I think that's the easiest thing to kind of understand what we're trying to do here. So what my proposal was, and I talked a little bit about this or I was going to say this morning, this is how long this meeting's been, earlier in the evening, that we were going to have maybe a combined town hall with Elk Township to get our residents together, get our representatives together, and hopefully someone from the state parks to come and listen to us and comment. So that's my proposal. The details we need to work on where we're going to do it. I think that you had mentioned the church might be an option, but we'll look into that potential. Yeah, we'll have to do that. But I'd like to propose a motion in principle to have this town hall and do it sometime soon. So let me cheat and look at another motion. So I would like to make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve a town hall meeting, combined town hall meeting with Elk Township and our board, if Elk is amenable, to discuss the Big Elk Creek State Park plans. May I have a second? Thank you, Dawn. So any discussion we want to have on this potential town hall meeting?
I think after this, I kind of like you, so I think after this meeting, if we didn't approve this, you'll be hanged.
It's the right thing to do. It wouldn't be us.
Okay, fair enough. So, all right. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Stefan, was that an aye? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, board. Appreciate the support in my life. All right. So the second proposal is a little bit more nebulous because I don't know what the letter would be and who we would write it to and what it would say.
We'll probably go DCNR.
And I see what you have to say. You have a comment.
I'd like to discuss this with you before you make this motion.
Okay.
And we can do it for 5 minutes now, or because it might be too late if we do it after the meeting is over.
Let's just do it now. That's good.
Okay. So can we go into executive session somehow?
Oh, well, we might have to then if this is
Take me 5 minutes to give you my advice if we went out into the and we went out into the office.
Should we continue with the meeting then?
We'll take 5 minute break and then come back in and continue with the
All right,
meeting.
let's take a 5 minute break. Thank you, folks. We're taking a 5 minute break.
Who's going?
We're all going.
Yeah, there's only two.
I did that survey and I did all that stuff.
I didn't know about it. I went on election day. Came up to me and just, and I said, oh, well, and I just spent all this stuff going,
I'm not a resident here.
Yeah.
I know where. In that part.
Something I said. No.
And once me those people.
He said, why did you leave?
And I tell them like, the farming practices they allow there are ridiculous. I mean, they're just. Wilkinson cuts that hay on the other side of Circleville in May. Crushes turkey nest, kills deer, kills fawns. He's cutting it before the normal farm.
And they're out there spraying.
And they're spraying and they're cutting it. I'm like, they did that when it was a preserve.
But the thing is, the residents that predominantly live really close to the area are elderly, so they don't have access to.
I walk in it every day, walk my dog.
Why wasn't something in the mailbox of every resident?
I said, what, when you spray that glyphosate, you see the commercials
Yeah.
about suing for Roundup.
Yeah.
They're spraying it and they're not telling the public. And you can go walk in that hayfield and it's just been sprayed with glyphosate. Why are they spraying with glyphosate? It was a preserve with
Because they
birds.
were gonna put in, native plants.
They are, they're putting nano pollinators, that's over about miles.
Spray Roundup first.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me either.
Well, I understand that. I don't understand the intense agriculture practice on, when it was still a preserve, now it's just continuing to state park. I'm all for farming, you can plant cornfields and whatever, but leave some strips for the wildlife. They don't, it's just clear farm. But now it'd be worse, it'd be this conglomeration of campground. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's amazing. It just gets rolling and rolling, and unless you have eyes on it, I mean.
Oh, so thank you, Guy. So what we're going to do, we're not making a motion here, but I think we're going to agree in principle that we need to address this issue with the state parks. Writing this letter, one, kind of expressing our disappointment and lack of information, and asking the state to be more forthcoming and involve us in the process. We will, I suppose, have maybe Stacy and the staff help maybe draft something, and then we will. Okay.
In addition to the right to know.
Yeah. In addition to the right to know. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So with that, I think we're moving on to.
Hey, Dave, before you move out of Parks and Rec, could I ask a question? Back to the trail building. Was that I returned that machine to the trail spinners today, and they asked me if I was going to make a donation. So this was kind of a little awkward situation because we hadn't talked about money before, but I said I would ask, and I know you guys had approved, I don't remember, like $400 a year ago for me to rent one. And so I got it from these guys for free, but they're asking if there's anything you can donate. So is it possible to send them a check for $300 or $400 or something to the Trail Spinners Club for using their machine all weekend?
I mean, I guess we'll have to talk about it. I mean, I don't have a. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if we're prepared to make a donation to the Trail Spinners.
Usually ask that before
using,
right?
Yeah, I agree. Right?
I know. I'm not blaming you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not you. We're just kind of in an awkward position now. But the board will talk about it. We can talk about it off, and then when we next meeting and figure out what we want to do.
And we did. You had approved, I believe, $400 a year ago to rent it, and I know that's probably old news, but
that
I'm
is
just
old
reminding
news.
you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So I just want to make sure before we move on, I think we covered it. We did the two proposals that the motions that I wanted to put in. I think we're done. All right. So Dawn.
Okay, I can move this meeting along rather quickly because the Planning Commission report, there's no report. There was no meeting, and the Historic Commission and Harb report had no meeting and no report.
Okay. So I'll introduce Mark Zawada for Franklin.
Mark here, I thought you were just here for entertainment.
It was a good meeting to come to. I enjoyed it.
All right,
actually. I mean, it was
we do our best.
upsetting, but a quick update on our activity in the Franklin Sportsman's Association for November. Archery season still underway, but the firearm season opens November 25th, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and ends December 9th, and then reopens the 26th and closes the 27th. We have some deer harvest. We have 4 deer harvested, 3 doe and 1 buck, and 2 from Banffshire. So we didn't get any last year. We got 2. So hope maybe the crossovers may have helped. I don't know, but and 1 from White Clay and 1 from Franklin. The community service is ongoing. We're at, as of November 8th, we're at 151.5 hours of service projects. And the next item is just an observation for the board, just to keep you informed. These are things that members report that they've seen. At least 2 members have observed e-bikes in Franklin, and sometimes in the dark. I don't know if e-bikes are allowed or not. They're not motorcycles, they're quiet, but okay.
One of the things that we have to establish motorized vehicles. We haven't talked about that officially, but e-bikes fall in that case.
So again, just so you guys are aware.
We have to talk about it at some
But
point.
but definitely not in the dark.
Yeah, no, they've
Well, it
been
shouldn't be in the, yeah, I'm sorry, on my light thing. Yeah, it's after the park's closed. So.
Right.
So the other is both bikers have been observed and joggers in Franklin before it opens. I saw it one morning, and I know a couple other members have seen it. They seem to be parking over on that Forest Gump Road by the development and going in the dark. So you see people driving on bikes with the headlights on and headlamps jogging. So it's hasn't caused any other issues other than that. It's just weird. They're in there in the dark. It's closed. So
All right, thank you.
that's all I have. So if you
All
have
right,
any
thank you, Mark.
questions. Okay.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Good night.
All right.
Can I inject myself here?
I don't know who it is.
Who is that?
It's Paul Legassi. Can
hey,
you
Paul.
on me? Sorry. Yeah, Don went very quickly and I was on mute waiting to talk. I actually have 2 things I do need to bring to the attention of the board. So you'll have to forgive me for lengthening this meeting a little. The first is that the Mason-Dixon Art Corner Heritage Interpretation and Connectivity Plan met in October. This is a plan in which Franklin is participating and is making a financial contribution. This was and some members, I think, of the board are part of the MD-HIP mailing list. So some of you should be receiving information about this. Anyway, they met in October, and that meeting was essentially an introductory meeting in which participants from the Brandywine Conservancy and the Heritage Strategies, who will be the primary developers of the ultimate plan, were introduced to the township members. Township members will be acting in an advisory and consultative capacity. Also participating are Janine Spears, who is there from Chester County, and Miller Design Works also has a member on the plan committee. The plan is in its earliest stages. The first meeting outlined the plan development process, which takes place over 18 months, with the bulk of the work done in 16 months. If things get held up or hit a snafu, an extension is possible. Currently, they're in the process of collecting info on current trails, the Mason-Dixon line and the Art Corner stones and other historic resources, preserved lands, ag tourism sites, and the like. And that info on that's already been acquired through the county and other sources is being updated and corrected. The next meeting will be in December or January, depending upon when it can be arranged. That meeting will focus primarily, I think, on reviewing what has been collected and on heritage themes and possible hosting facilities for different types of basically heritage tourism information centers that might be considered. There are 4 more task force meetings after the second one, and there will be 3 planned public meetings. These are all basically going to be over Zoom. Finally, probably the most important thing from a practical point of view that I have to note is that each township is selecting a sort of point of contact or point person to represent the township and to make sure that information gets back to the township. So we have to do that. I have indicated that I'm willing to do that. By the time, however, we were talking about that, I was the only person from Franklin still in the meeting, so I was not about to appoint myself Franklin's point person. So let's circle around to that, back to that question in a minute. But another important thing with a longer time frame is America 250. And at last weekend's Chester County Historic Preservation Network meeting, the America 250 celebration was again the focus of our meeting. It's important to note that the 250th anniversary of celebration, unlike the bicentennial, won't focus exclusively on 1776. What they found is that, you know, the colonial focus and the revolutionary focus left a lot of communities that post-date that kind of with things that they didn't really have to contribute. So that date and its events aren't as historically important to the history of many locales. And like a good example of this is the Louisiana Purchase, which is more important to St. Louis's history. So various localities are free to approach this in the way they want. You don't have to focus on 1776. Federal involvement and funds are currently minimal, even though this idea originates on the federal level. The state, Pennsylvania, is developing its own plans and making its own plans. Chester County basically sees itself more as a publicizer and facilitator of local events with a specific focus on using the ideas that come out of this process as a means of developing tourism opportunities. And so at the local level, which is, you know, us and Elk and New Garden and London, Britain, this anniversary, they're suggesting that we consider focusing either on a local tour night, a series of talks on appropriate themes. It could be something, for example, that in 2026 we could add as a facet to the fall festival, since we need not be oriented toward July 4th. So those are my 2 items. I don't need to take up much more of your time, except that if you would like me to act as a point person for Franklin, I'd be happy to do it.
Paul, I had one question. You said that Franklin was represented already by the board, by someone on the board. I don't know who that is.
So there are several people that were sent. I don't have it. I'm sorry. I don't have this in front of me. I can't call it up easily because I'm remote and on my phone.
Okay.
But
Paul, when it
Jeff?
first came up, I said I was willing to help with it, and I am on the list. And
Yeah,
I
I
am
think-
getting that information, but I was going to ask you or ask somebody where we were with that.
Right. So I think Jeff is on the list too, and I'm not sure. Dave, I think you may be on that list too.
I'm on an email list. That's all I know.
Yeah, well, it's not really relating to it's not really an email list. Like whoever is on that list is being invited to attend these meetings.
That's what I got.
And
Yeah.
I'm on it, Paul Overton, and I attended the majority of that last meeting. But
Right. You
I'm
were
not-
gone when the sort of point person issue came up.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll vote for you, Paul.
Yeah, I figured you would. Thank you. No, it's not something I'm eager to take on, but I'm willing to do it.
I'm willing to be your backup.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so what I will try and do is deliver information in not only in an oral report, but maybe something of a written report to the staff and supervisors that can be a little more detailed than what can be presented at a supervisors meeting.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
So it's the report from our consultants. It's in our books. I don't think you want me to read it. But I do want to make a comment based on MS4. And I'm going to go back to my favorite topic, the budget. So as we all know, as we work through the budget, based on some of the estimates that Andrew has given us, it's very difficult to put that kind of money aside. And so you ask yourself, okay, how can you reduce the cost? And when we were looking at the road program, Ron Reagan had some ideas, and his initial focus was look at the numbers. So we're asked to how many millions of tons of sediment we're asked to reduce, and he suggested that we look again at those numbers. He hasn't seen our what we have, but he is working on other townships. And he said they're interesting. It is if you move from agricultural land to an actual development, you actually produce less sediment. It's just the nature. And so he's suggesting that we look at our numbers, look to see what kind of development we've had over the years, and see if we can work with DEP to reduce those numbers. So just a suggestion that we contact Andrew and ask him to show us those calculations and maybe just bring Ron in, not to do the work, but as a consultant to look at it and to see if he has any ideas, because anything we can reduce is going to save us some money.
One other item too that we talked about a few years ago about this process, and this was back when we thought it'd be $200,000 a year, was that the DEP will exclude agricultural land from the calculation. They've done that with surrounding townships, local townships to us. They did not do that for Franklin Township. And so we need to explore that and revisit it because that's something that could significantly.
Yeah, actually, Ron brought that up and he said they're not going to, based on his experience, I'll just put that caveat, right? Based on his experience, they will not just exclude agricultural land. But if you give them, if you look at it and maybe it was a piece of property that's now like Lexington Point turning into a development or some kind of farmland that has been turned into a development. That if you look at that in those kind of situations, they may be able to do it. And he just has a perspective. I think if we can show him what we have, he may have some ideas.
Okay, good. Appreciate it.
So do we, it's going to cost a couple hours time on his, is that okay from the board?
Anything else? I mean, it'll be a couple hours of his time and maybe thousands of dollars of in taxpayer money saved.
So Jeff, if you.
Yes, I will work with Ron and get the information he wants.
All right, thank you.
I agree. I've always, a couple of meetings ago, I think I've suggested the same idea that of having, I like Andrew, but this is just because of the size of the dollar size of this, that there's nothing wrong with getting a consultant or a checks and balance second opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And meeting with Ron, I think he has a lot of experience in this and he has a lot of townships surrounding us. So I agree.
Yeah, good idea. All right, so
Just so that needs, I know he has in this thing that he's would like to submit the TMDL plan. But before we give it to DEP to do a preliminary review, I think we just want to look at this because I think if Ron can find something, or even if Andrew can find something, the conversation should be with DEP is about these new numbers, and I'd rather have that be part of this discussion before we give them the preliminary plan. Thank you.
Okay. Right, so now we get to the main topic of tonight's meeting.
I'm already exhausted.
And here we go. The 2024 budget discussion. So we are where we are in the process is at this meeting, we have to come to a preliminary agreement that the budget is in good enough shape to approve. It'll be advertised, and then we will formally adopt it in December. Because this was an election year and we will have a new board come January, the board will reopen the books for examination by the new board members, and they can make their own judgments against the budget. If that meeting could be very short, open them and close them right away. If there are no comments, but there will be this year a third opportunity to review the budget due to it being an election year. So with that, Melissa has built a proposal for us to review based on input that we've given her from the last meeting and an executive session that we had regarding the township employees. And so now I think we should just go through it, and I'll open up to the board how we want to approach it. Do we want to just pick out items of concern? I'll leave it up to the board to say how we want to go through this discussion line by line. There's a lot of ways we can do it. Stefan?
No, I'm fine. We had a discussion on, I guess, last week. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty fine. The one thing I do want to mention in the future, when you think about this budget,
okay,
is line item 310.200 or 20, or an income tax.
Wait, let's get.
All right, income tax 310.
Yeah.
Second pit. Second.
That is.
That's what income.
Yes, that number 5 years ago was probably less than half of this amount.
Right.
That is also roughly, oh gosh, what did I do this? 25%, if not more, of the total income for the township. And I'm mentioning that because people's circumstances can change, residencies can change. Just think of that as a little bit of extra money, and don't always think of it as always 100% being there. Because there is a chance, I mean, I don't know who or whom constitutes that, but if it's one or two people, those things.
The situation can change.
The situation can change.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was one thing I want to mention, because if you go back to 2019, 2018, that number was a heck of a lot less.
Yeah, I think when we had, this was back in 2020 when we noticed that spike, and the question was, is this a real number or not?
Yeah.
You know,
Right, but it's been following through.
but it's been following through for. So.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. And then I just want to make sure, because I know we've been going back a little bit on emails. MS4, and when I talked about MS4, I'm not talking about the normal MS4. I'm talking about this mandate. Okay.
Right.
We are putting aside, help me out, guys, 400,000, of which we are expecting to use 250, and we're reserving 150. Is that correct?
No.
Or is it the other way around?
So no, you're gonna use, we're putting 300 away, 100's for our normal stormwater.
I don't care about that.
You
Okay.
can take that out, yeah. And then, so 300 and then 150 is being sent away. So the way I look at it, it's that it's 150 is being put in reserve, but based on the breakdown you gave me, Melissa, it's 300's being put to be spent. 60. So, and we may not spend all 300.
300, including normal
So that's
stormwater.
No. So I'm
Yeah.
following your rule.
Thank you.
Normal stormwater is out, right? So based on an email from Melissa, oh, sorry, she only sent it to me, my mistake. Is that it's $300,000 just for MS4. 150 is going to the reserve.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other, am I doing this right? I'm sorry. 150 is going to the reserve, and I'm doing this wrong. So it's 450 for MS4, okay? 150 goes to the reserve, and 300 is in our budget as a potential expenditure. 200 is to use this to prepare for MS4, 60 is for MS4 reporting, and 40 is for surveys.
And okay, and I just want to make sure, because there's a very good chance after we talked to Andrew, I think it was last month or the month before, that we're not going to spend that much. We may only spend 125, depending on the timing of things. So if we only spend, if we're budgeting 400 for MS4, the stuff we're talking about, the real MS, whatever, the pain in the butt MS4,
Or 50, I'm sorry.
and we only spend 125, then we're going to have 275 that would go into this reserve slush fund, whatever you want to call
It'll
it.
be carried over to next year, we can put it in the budget.
Okay.
And I think from my, from our perspective,
I'm sorry.
one of the things that, it's a zero sum game, right? We can't create money with this budget. It's not like we're gonna go out and find more customers, right?
No, only
And
if we
so-
raise taxes,
or
but
we can
sure,
raise
right,
taxes,
but not, we're not, with that, that's off the table.
And so. Right, you know what I'm saying?
It's all a balancing act, because that, you're absolutely right, right? But at the end of the day, we're gonna have to pay the piper, because,
It's true.
yeah.
It's true, but I think the point is that, what I want to say is that we are, listen, with this board, we are planning, right? This is not something that we're taking lightly, but there are things, even though we are putting money away to help deal with this, we have a plan, but there are emergencies that happen and we have to be able to use that money.
No, Dave, I totally agree. And I think that if we put ourselves in a better position, financial position, and we're there early for grants, et cetera, and doing everything we need to do, and I hate to use this example or comparison, there are going to be townships that are going to be screaming or crying wolf or whatever the saying is. They're going to be in such terrible, worse situation than we are, that they're gonna cry, and their local politicians and the state people, they're gonna hear them, and the rules might change. Maybe it's a little game theory, whatever it is. But if we put ourselves in as best position we can, and other townships that have more mileage or more whatever that they can, then I think if we're just a little bit better than the neighboring townships or whatever, then I think we're in a good position.
We want to be ahead of the curve in that respect.
Yeah, a little bit. And then
So
I also don't want to lead. I want, I don't want to lead with this at all. I want, and the other thing I just want to also mention, raising taxes, real estate taxes, $125,000. That's nothing. Okay, so what are we going to do? Double it and to raise another, double it so we can raise another 125,000, which will do nothing? Do we triple our real estate tax so we can get 250,000? I mean, so raising taxes may not be the answer.
Not for real estate taxes, right? That's the conversation we have to have with the state, right?
Right.
So, yeah, you guys have an opinion of the state government that I just don't share. I don't think they care. I think this is something that's a mandate that's been down there for years. This is not new. We've known about it. You need the money, you go raise taxes. That's not what we're gonna do, but that's what their answer is. They're not gonna change the law. This is about clean water. This is the green agenda. It's not gonna happen. I just want to, I think we're doing a decent job, and I just want you to know, we're not even putting enough money aside. We should be putting around $600,000 a year aside. We're doing the best we can. I'm happy with it, but I just want us to know, it's not like we're overloading it.
I just want to make a point on that. We should be, but we can't. Like, we don't have $600,000.
We're doing the best we can.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can.
But I do not. Stefan, I would love to be wrong, but I do not count on the state coming in and saying, you know what?
We're gonna help you out.
Yeah, we're gonna help you out here.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant. What I'm saying is that if there are other townships that are in worse situation, there'll be issues. They'll raise taxes. There'll be other issues that they're gonna have to show what the lowest common denominator is, how much pain. And you're right, the state's not gonna give it to whatever. they're not gonna care, but, yeah, I just,
But the state might look at our calculations a little bit.
Well, that's a difference. See,
That's
that's where I want to go. Let's get the burden down. And maybe DEP will work. And we can talk with Andrew how we frame this, because the one thing I've noticed about Andrew and DEP, they have a really nice relationship. I mean, I work with the health authorities. If I had that kind of relationship, I mean, they're like first name basis, how's it going? How's the kids? And it's a very nice, relationships. And I think you, in that kind of a situation, you might be able to say, look, these guys are doing their best and the money's just not there. Can we just look at these calculations again and make sure that we've looked at everything as best we can, because they are doing their best, but they can't make it happen. So, I think it's worth, that's where I think we have a chance to try to get the numbers down. But in terms of cost, I think, we put aside what we can, and I have my numbers wrong again, Steph, and I apologize. It was 450 we're putting aside. 150 is going in reserve, 300 is in the general fund. We spend what we need to spend, to think about it, but just, I don't want to wait for $3 million for year 5. I'd like to do it in a way, maybe not a leader, but be pragmatic so that we aren't caught off guard with some of these projects.
and vis-a-vis our budget meeting that we had, or discussion that we had last Monday, I just also want to make sure 100% that whatever money this account goes to, reserve, whatever it is, that if it's 5 years from now, 8 years from now, maybe we get a lot of grants, maybe they change the rules a little bit, that if we don't need 3 million and we only need 1.8, that we have access to that money and it's not tied up in it's in some reserve account that we can only spend it for this, this, and this. I just want to make sure we have access to that.
Look at the lady there.
Yeah. It's just in the reserve fund.
Reserve, we can move it back to general, right?
Yeah.
We can move it back to
Yeah.
general.
It's not earmarked for anything.
So what do we want to do? We just had a good conversation about the MS4 budget line items.
I do have a question about the capital fund.
Okay.
But the general fund, if it's the same as we talked, I'm sorry. If it's the same as we talked about, I haven't had a chance to look at it. I looked at what was on the what you sent us electronically. I was fine with that. I haven't looked at this one today. Okay.
I haven't changed that to 1,000.
That's what I was gonna ask you, because I like to.
I think every time I was changing it based on everybody's suggestions, I think it's making everything confusing, especially for second.
Okay, so what I would like, so maybe I'll just talk to the crew. So what I like, so let's look at the liquid fuels money. Everybody can see we have $204,000. That was what we talked about, what time was that? 7 o'clock when we talked about the road program. So that money's there. And then, but if you look at the capital fund, that's the one where I unless there's a good reason not to, I want to explain myself. I like to get that 91,000 put into a miscellaneous project, something in there, so that we can spend it if we need to. I'm not saying we should, but if you don't allocate it to be spent, it's gonna be you can't touch it. So put it wherever you want to. I don't know. Capital fund. It's kind of in the middle. So Melissa, you can do that? I mean, is it okay? Right, but I'm not asking us to spend it. I think it would be nice to carry some money over to next year. But just in case, because I don't know what's gonna happen. This is the other thing we didn't talk about. So this, if the folks remember, we did one time talk about doing some work here in the township building. And we don't really have $1 million or whatever that's gonna cost, but there are things that have to get done. Like there are issues that need to be addressed, whether it's rotting wood, whether it's leaky windows, whether it's a new rug. So there is some money here. And we don't have to decide how to spend it, but I think we have to do something. It won't, just to make sure this is livable for our staff. So we can talk about that later, but at least there's some money in there for you.
We're not doing so good anymore. God, we're like dropping cups. We're not using our microphones. Oh my goodness. So I guess in principle, the question is the board satisfied with the budget as it's being presented tonight? And then if there's any issues.
With
we
the
can
change that I asked for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've been doing such a great job.
Melissa does all the work. So the only, I think it's well done. I would just ask that we put the 91,000 or maybe the 85. I don't care. Yes.
All right. So the path forward here is we'll advertise the budget and it'll be voted for approval in December. And then the caveat obviously is we'll open the books for the new board in January. Are we good? All right, another year in the books. Thank you, Melissa, for putting a nice package together. Appreciate it.
About reopening the budget.
Yes.
Because in one of my training classes I did through PATH and PSATs.
Yeah.
Technically, you don't have to reopen the budget for the new supervisors coming in because the budget is going to be published and it's viewable for public inspection. So your new supervisor coming in can just come pick a budget up and she can make comments for us to change. And then you're saving on all the advertisement and fees. And January, just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, the way we've always done it is the way we've always done it is I guess we could ask, right? You can ask whether or not they need to reopen the budget. I don't think it's automatic.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with your financial guru. My experience and my general understanding is that you may, if you wish, reopen the budget to accommodate newly elected supervisors the year after an election.
You're not compelled.
You don't have to, and if there's no request, then you don't need to, and it's one less item on the agenda. So
I suppose it's just an opportunity. If something does come up, we can discuss it.
correct. It's a useful tool to have if you think, if you need it, but it's not.
Fair enough.
So like Melissa said, if the new supervisor has a copy and has a change that is proposed, then we'd have to open it back up.
Perfect. We'll do that.
Okay.
All right. It's still early. Hasn't been ratified yet. All right. So with that, I think we're moving on. Donna.
All right, so I turn it over to my friend, Guy Donatelli. Go for it.
Thank you. I'll walk through these items relatively quickly. My view on the Comcast franchise agreement renewal is that it automatically renewed earlier in this year. And what Comcast has asked the township to do is to enter into, in effect, a new one, which is complicated and wordy and different than the one that exists. The reason they wanted to do, and I don't have any issue with that because that is a specialty agreement, and there are actually professionals who devote a large chunk of their practice to those. What they wanted to do is engage in that change because there are new technologies or different technologies that exist now that didn't exist in the old agreement. So I looked through the new agreement, and it's, as I said, it's intricate. My suggestion to Jessica Sibley was that we just do a letter addendum or amendment to the agreement that's already renewed itself, or an auto renewal, to accommodate her concerns about the new technologies. I've spoken to her about that. I've emailed her that is my view, that my view is we have a Comcast franchise agreement. I'm happy with it. It's automatically renewed. I can't get out of it. Neither can they, or the township can. And so if she really wants to make some definitional changes, let's do it in a letter addendum. That's where it stands. My last communication with her was today, and she's looking into that. But I don't see that as something that I'm going to drive. But I'll continue to drive. I'll continue to ask her to get me, because I don't know what I couldn't tell you what the different technologies are. They'd have to tell me that, and then we'd have to agree to the change.
she wants it, she'll come back.
That's my view. And it doesn't it doesn't change the service that your constituents are getting. It's going to exist. It's there. So I don't view that as something that needs a lot of revision. And if, like you say, Supervisor D, if she wants that, they'll get me that. And I've tried to keep Ms. Ortega up to speed on that. And as things develop, I'll be doing that. General code is done. We'd like to advertise it. So if you just say, Guy, go ahead, we'll go ahead. All right. Cell tower extension. That's going well. We had some comments. Ms. Ortega and I reviewed the document. I suggested some changes. She agreed. We had a Teams meeting today with Ryan Stradley. He's in Houston. He represents Comcast. He agreed to every one of our changes. I'm sorry? Right, Crown Castle. What did I say? I beg your pardon. Yes, Crown Castle. He's in Houston. The only thing he wanted us to do was, there's a right of first refusal baked into the addendum. And I don't see that as problematic, but under the second-class township code, there are statutory requirements if you ever wanted to transfer or sell this property. So we did a red line, baked in the language that satisfied Melissa R, my Melissa, and he's fine with it. So next meeting, we'll be bringing you the Crown Castle amendments and with our recommendation that the board consider it favorably. And the Lexington Point escrow release number 3, I reviewed the engineer's review letter. I have no issues with it. I think we were comfortable that the remaining amount of the security is adequate and there and available. So I would again suggest that if there's a motion item to release escrow number 3, which there is, I would suggest that you consider that favorably.
Do you want to finish up, then we go back?
Finish up.
Finish up your bullet points and go back to the motion, or should I do the motion now?
I think I just finished mine. Yes, that.
My favorite. What would?
Okay. The non-existent bullet point, or is that a new one? Oh, it's on the new one. When Ms. Hollis sends it to me, I print it, and then when I come in, Jeff gives me a new one. Yeah, I have revisions that the Office of General Counsel wants me to consider. I've looked at it. I don't have any issues with it, but I haven't confirmed that with him. But I have all that done. It's just not ready to present to you tonight.
Has the DEP approved this thing yet?
No, it has not.
So the only good thing about this is if you just hope it takes 5 years, because nothing starts until they approve it. Yeah.
No, they know we are in their outlines. We are in their system as far as participants. I waited months before I got any comments back from the Office of General Counsel. So I just need to turn that around.
Yeah, it's just interesting that DEP hasn't done it. Okay, but that's all right. Take your time, DEP. I'm sure you have other things to do. It's fine with me. All right, here we go. So I'm going to make a motion on the Lexington Point escrow release number 3 bond. So I would like to make a motion that the board approve Lexington Point's escrow release number 3 from bond number 30145589 as reviewed and recommended by Stan Corbett of ACOM in his letter dated November 7, 2023. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, any discussion? Now, I looked at the numbers. He went through point by point, subtracted anything that he thought he needed to subtract. And you're fine with the numbers. Okay, anybody else? All right, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes 5-0.
All right. With that, we come to our final public comment. This public comment can include any comments On anything attendees might want to share, commenters must state their name and whether they are the township residents or a taxpayer of the township.
You're not on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not. I'd like to open up for our second public comment. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees might want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Is there any public comment? All right, well, not hearing any, I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 10:13 PM. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Stefan. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Good night.